pressure looks good.
Throttling up. Roger, roll with Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight Alcantarilla, feed off. Say again, feed off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to NASA Spaceflight Live, the first NASA Spaceflight Live show of the new year. Let us know if you can hear me. Thank you all for tuning in. It will be a very, very fun episode today. We have got some predictions from last year that we need to recap and see how terribly wrong we were. And then we got to predict next year, and it's going to be very interactive. We want to get all of y'all's input on what's going on. I'm seeing tons of 5x5s in chat, so that means you can hear me and that you can see us. So I appreciate that. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Thomas Burghardt, news director for NASA Spaceflight. I'll be hosting today's show, and I brought two of my good friends here. First on this side, yeah, that one. We've got Alex. Alex, how are you doing today?
Well, oh man, I'm still kind of surprised that we're that we're already in a new year. Time just basically flies, but yeah, we'll see how things went in 2022 and how things will go in this new year.
Time flies. Some rockets flew. A lot of rockets didn't fly. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then over on this side, yep, I got it right that time. Adrian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely fine, and I'm looking forward to set myself up for being clowned on in the next year. So yeah, let's do that.
So folks, if you remember about this time last year, we had an NSF live episode, and that was Chris Gebhardt, Stephen Marr, and Ian Atkinson were on that show, and we had them live on air predict. Michael was extra mean to them that time. Made them live on air, on the fly, predict a bunch of different questions about spaceflight events that would or would not happen or things like that. And we're going to go back and review how they did and talk a little bit about why certain things happened and certain things didn't. There you go. The very first question that we'll get to, 0 for 3 on that one, but we'll get to that in a second. So we're going to go through some of those questions, talk about what the heck happened, and then we're going to get into predicting the next year, and that'll be the three of us. We've actually asked not just us three, but also all of the NSF commentators that you see, or at least most of them, I think, that you hear on launch streams or NSF Live or whatever over the course of the year. We asked a bunch of them, a bunch of different questions ahead of time, so we don't have to answer live on air, but we will explain our answers and justify them. And a year from now, we can look back and see how wrong we were. I'm also definitely going to be asking chat for your predictions and things like that. And we'll also try to take some questions. So again, you know the deal. Tag us at NASA Spaceflight if you got any questions. I'll keep an eye out for those. And then when we get into the predictions, definitely going to see if Chet has any interesting predictions for the questions that we're going to ask. Also, we are very aware that Booster 7 is currently sitting in the Mega Bay and could roll out today based on road closures and things like that. If we see that happening, you can scream about it in chat if you want. We've also got people checking in the background, and we're going to show that live too, and we'll give some updates if we have that too. So that could be a cool thing. Just so happens to coincide with NSF Live today. Also, do want to thank people who send support to the stream, and right off the bat, we've got a new Capcom member. So Rob, thank you for joining the Capcom membership. And then Maha, if I pronounce that the way it's supposed to be, with the €5 super chat there. So thank you both so much for your support, and always want to thank that. So should we get into embarrassing Chris, Ian, and Steven from last year? I think that's where we're going to start. Don't worry, we've got some predictions of our own that we also have to own up to, especially me and Adrian, but we'll get to that later. So the first question here, would a Starship reach orbital velocity in 2022? And of course, at the time, there was a little bit of an offset because there was still the we weren't sure whether the first orbital launch was like actually orbital velocity. There was the talk of like basically doing a once around trajectory. That plan has kind of been up in the air, no pun intended. And so there was some debate as to which flight they were actually talking about. Doesn't matter though, because they were all wrong no matter what. They all predicted yes, and they all predicted that it would happen in the summer as well. So we went 0 for 3 there, and well, some things happened over the year that definitely set them back. I think one particular energetic event is the first one that comes to my mind, right, Alex, Adrian? I mean, what do you think happened over this? Was it realistic to target this year and things happened to delay it, or was that never a realistic target?
I think if the Booster 7 mishap would have not happened, I don't think these were actually that far off. I mean that we saw that threw them back like a good amount of time, and we'll see it here again. And they also, it seems like after that, they approached this whole a bit more carefully and a bit more step by step. So I do not think these predictions are totally like off. I think if you would have asked me last January, I would have gone in a similar direction. So yeah, you cannot really predict explosions. Although we will do that later.
Although we can't, but we'll try anyway.
Yes.
Alex, any thoughts on the Starship delays?
Oh man, at the time it seemed like it was viable to see a launch this year. This year, 2022, last year. But there's been so many difficulties getting everything together, getting everything ready from a technical standpoint. I know a lot of people usually, are like, well, the FA and whatever, but there's been a lot of work in the technical side, just from the OLM, the vehicles, design upgrades here and there. And so it's just this constant work of getting everything together ready. Just to give an example, the OLM shielding, for example, we haven't seen that until recently being worked on. And even then, it's still not even closed out, which we expect should be one of the last things that they do for that orbital launch so that everything is protected. But yeah, it's a lot of work. And I think we just underestimated that amount of work, probably SpaceX too. And so, it's a little of balancing as data comes in, you just start doing different predictions. I started shifting my predictions all over, and we'll talk about that later, but we'll see.
Yeah. So we're going to recap the 2022 predictions first, and we will come back. And of course, a question in the predictions for next year is, does Starship reach orbit this year? So we'll get to that in a second. I see people already making predictions in chat, and we will get to that in the second half of today's show. But we went over 3 on Starship last year. Another new rocket that we asked the team to predict for 2022 would Vulcan lift off for the first time. And we got 2 for 3 right here. Both Chris and Ian correctly predicted that Vulcan would slip into 2023. Steven was optimistic, but unfortunately, Vulcan has slipped, of course, into this year. Couple different factors we've gotten from that. Obviously, BE4 engine readiness has been a big part of that. We do know there was a little bit, at least, of a setback on that. But the other factors as payload readiness, the Peregrine Moonlander, which is the payload on the first flight, is also going through its pre-flight testing and things like that. And so I don't know if we ever will get or have gotten like a super clear answer as to what exactly the cause was. It was probably multiple things, but nevertheless, ULA now working towards Vulcan this year now. So we got 2 for 3 right on that, and of course, new rockets. The delays are kind of expected. It kind of goes with Starship, same kind of discussion. One new rocket that did lift off in 2022, SLS, the Space Launch System, making its first ever flight successfully, and Artemis 1 did in fact launch in 2022, and we went 3 for 3 on that. So shout out to the NASA spaceflight team for getting that right. However, I will add the caveat that 2 of them,
oh no,
Steven and Ian, both said, and it'll happen in the summer. It barely happened in 2022. Okay, let's be very clear. It only got there by like a month, but it did lift off, so they all get full credit for that. Artemis 1, of course, having a successful first flight as well. We didn't predict like the success of any of these flights. We only predicted whether they would happen. But Artemis 1 did launch, of course, very successfully, completely successful mission. Orion is now back at the Kennedy Space Center after its trip around the moon for several days. And they're working towards analyzing that and getting ready for Artemis 2 no earlier than 2024. And while there's no Artemis flight or no SLS flight scheduled for 2023 right now, we still have an Artemis prediction to make in the second half of this show. So we'll get to that. All right. Another launch prediction that we made in 2022, would Starliner make its second uncrewed orbital test flight in 2022? It did in fact do that, and NSF went 3 for 3 on predicting that flight correctly. And that was also a very successful mission. As usual, I think there were I don't even know if we heard many details, but as usual on every flight, there's always quote anomalies, little things that they pick us this was not exactly anomalous, this wasn't exactly what we predicted and things like that. But that is very different from the first Starliner orbital flight test, right? That mission had all sorts of issues. It didn't even accomplish several major objectives. OFT2 went very, very well. And we're expecting the crewed flight test to occur this year, the first crewed flight of Starliner. This isn't a prediction in the second half show, so I'm just going to ask it now. This is off the record. You don't get docked next year if you get this wrong because Michael didn't put it in the list of official questions. Starliner CFT, what month does it launch?
I love getting questions without any preparation time. Why don't you go first?
Chad, I have to go. How about Chad goes first? Chad, when does
Come on.
CFT launch? Oh, tag.
I'm
Oh, and
gonna
also
say-
tag me at NASASpaceflight so I see your answer really quick.
I'm
But
gonna say
I think we have to
July.
answer first because Chad gets the. You said July.
I just say July.
I think is it
In
currently
July,
no earlier
August,
than March is the
April.
official
April.
target, right?
It's
Or
I think
April,
it's
excuse me.
April.
June, July. Someone say
Yeah, like-
tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
I feel like,
that'd be
nope,
impressive.
not tomorrow.
It's not gonna happen tomorrow.
I think like if you account for usual it's spaceflight delays.
Yeah.
I think like a net April with no like fixed schedule to launch yet and not everything in like in the perfect places. I think like adding 1 or 2 months more like to the schedule and ending on like June, July is
Right.
very reasonable. But
Chad
I'm very
is
confident it will
definitely-
fly.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in the 2023 launch. Chad is also pretty confident. They're kind of agreeing with the summer timeframe. I'm seeing anywhere from May to July and August. I think I'll be a little optimistic and say May, but middle of the late spring or early summer, based on just little slips, especially because you have to work it into the like the visiting vehicle schedule for the ISS and things like that. So all of those factors considered, even if everything's like ready at that point, you can see a little bit of delay just so they slot in the right part of the schedule. So I will chat. I think we're all in the general agreement there. I've seen a couple hot takes that say 2024. That's a bit pessimistic, but a year from now we'll go back and we'll see what happens. Also, shout out to whoever ordered the new NSF hat that comes up on the overlay now. So I hope you enjoy your hat and thanks for the support there. I guess I should call those out when they happen.
I just want to make sure that it's mentioned on air so we don't forget. Patrick in the back channel predicted that it will not launch in 2023, and I just want to make sure
Pin
it's
that.
on the record.
Write that
Yeah.
down somewhere.
All right, I was gonna let Patrick off the hook, but Adrian says no mercy. So
No.
Patrick, your prediction is there forever now. All right, next new rocket prediction we made in 2022 goes to our friends over in Europe. Adrian and Alex, you both have to hold this one. I'm scot-free because I'm not part of the European Space Agency, but Ariane 6 did not launch in 2022. Although I will say NSF correctly predicted that. The target was pretty late 2022 at that point anyway, I think, and the readiness was not quite there. So Ariane 6 did not launch this year. We predicted that correctly. So NSF, good points. But
Hey, not my fault. Spain
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't really do a lot about Ariane 6 and 5 and things like
I
that.
think Germany has a bit of a more higher stake
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
that's-
Ariane
that's an
group. So
Adrian
sorry,
thing.
Adrian.
I
Sorry,
want to
Adrian.
blame France here, but either way, I feel like yeah, you said it. It was pretty unlikely because at the beginning of the year it was already in Q4, and it would be really bad if for a second year in a row we sit here doing our predictions and Ariane 6 is already predicted to launch in the Q4 of this year, right? Because let's be real, there's a very real and very realistic chance that it might not launch this year. So I don't like this prediction as
All
a
right.
European.
So we predicted no there. Christy also said it would only miss it by a couple months, which I think we're now expecting end of this year, if anything. So, but full credit, everyone predicted that one correctly. All right, another new rocket, Terran 1, would it launch in 2022? Did not get this one right. Christy gets the props for getting this correct by predicting no. Terran 1 now targeting launch this year for the first time. Stephen and Ian, sorry guys, I missed the mark on that one. But we're all rooting for Terran when it does fly. Keeping on the topic of small set launch vehicles, we got a bunch of small set predictions that were made last year. So let's go to Rocket Lab. The first prediction we went 0 for 3 on. Rocket Lab did not catch a booster in 2022. There was the one where they kind of caught it and then they dropped it because there were problems after they caught it and the pilot didn't like what he was seeing. Out of abundance of caution, let it go. So no successful catch attempts in 2022. And Steven also gets an extra wrong on this one because he predicted it would happen the first attempt. Well, they've made 2 attempts and I've gone 0 for 2 so far. Hoping Rocket Lab finds success on that program in 2023. And this kind of snowballs into the next question, which was, will Rocket Lab refly a booster in 2022? Well, they can't refly a booster that they didn't catch. So, Steven, you got that one wrong as well. Sorry, buddy. Chris and Ian both predicted that one correctly. Keeping on the small sat track here, Firefly Alpha. We asked the NSF team, would Firefly Alpha reach orbit this year? And they all correctly predicted yes. Congrats to Firefly on their first successful orbital launch. Of course, we covered that extensively before, and we know those payloads re-entered a little bit quicker than they were supposed to. It reached orbit, but it wasn't a 100% mission success based on the orbital parameters that came out after that launch. So hoping for improvements to the system for their next flight, which we would expect early this year. But they did reach orbit for the first time, a big step for the Alpha program and for Firefly overall. And then ABL Space Systems, which was another small sat launch provider, gearing up for their first attempts near the end of this past year, but they did not reach orbit in 2022. In fact, they didn't even lift off yet. They had a couple of aborts and things like that. They tried, but they're going to make their next attempt as early as tomorrow, actually, based on range closures and things like that. So we'll keep you all updated when that happens. But we all correctly predicted no Able in orbit in 2022, and we'll see them make their first launch attempt hopefully soon. All right, moving on from small sat launchers to small helicopters on other planets. We asked Ian, Chris, and Steven if Ingenuity would still be flying in December 22, and as of 2 days ago, it is still flying. Ingenuity made a flight just 2 days ago on Mars, thanks to JPL for providing all of the updates. Ingenuity far surpassing all expectations on its mission so far. And so all correctly predicted that Ingenuity would still be going strong, well beyond its planned mission lifetime. But Ingenuity is in fact still flying, and got that prediction right. Next, we moved on to predicting some SpaceX statistics. And Ian, sorry, buddy, you're going to get the clown on this one, because the question was, would SpaceX reach 15 flights of a booster in 2022? Chris and Steven both get full marks for answering yes, and 2 boosters reached 15 flights, right, Alex?
Well, technically only one. The other one flew 15 times, but it was in 2023 already. So
that's right. The other one reached
caveat
15 on transport of the first flight of this year.
Yeah.
So my apologies.
We're in the second week of 2023 and already have a launch by SpaceX, and we'll see in the next few days.
But booster 1058 was the first booster to fly for a 50th time, and that did happen last year. There's now a second booster that has reached that mark, so congrats to SpaceX and the Falcon teams on that. Christy and Steven both predicted that correctly. Ian, sorry, buddy. Maybe next time. All right, but this one was bad. I was watching this before the show, tallying up who got it right. And luckily, we were all wrong on like the good side, meaning that they did even better than that. And I think we all root for high launch cadence and things like that. But how many times will Falcon launch in 2022? The correct answer was 61, and no one got above 50 as their prediction. Steven, you win the most wrong award on this answer. Sorry about that. But Chris and Ian weren't particularly close either. But they were all pessimistic. Turns out SpaceX had an even better year in 2022. I don't know. We didn't really do any predictions about like Falcon Heavy, Starship splits. We talked Falcon launches. So obviously, it didn't count Starship. That's a different prediction. Only one Falcon Heavy launched last year, which I think would have been less than we all predicted last year. However, that wasn't the question. So Falcon launches overall 61 last year. Expecting more Falcon Heavy flights this year. In fact, we got one coming up as early as this coming week. But anyway. The next question that we asked, we only got 2 more predictions to go through here. This one was how many total launches would reach orbit in 2022. And obviously, if they were more correct on their SpaceX prediction, maybe their answers would have been slightly closer to correct here. The correct answer last year, 179 missions reached orbit in 2022. That is out of 180. Oh, I just talked about it. It was like 186 attempts. Only 7 launch failures last year. That's not bad at all, actually. Especially considering the new rockets that flew and things like that.
How many launches there were as well.
Yeah. So the correct answer was 179. So Ian, you got the closest at 160. And all things considered, I think that's pretty close. So I'm gonna give Ian the props on that. So technically wrong, but you know, it's kind of a hard question. But the correct answer was 179, and we were only a little bit off on that one. The last question here that we asked, this is the last question we predicted last year. What would be the next lander to land on the moon? And unfortunately, we don't actually know if we were correct yet, because nothing landed on the moon this past year. The only one that attempted, technically, there was a rideshare CubeSat that was on Artemis 1 that was supposed to attempt like a solid fueled landing on the moon. but that
like little
that mission failed after deployment. Like it didn't even make the attempt. And none of the other like CLPS landers or anything even made attempts. All three of them predicted Nova C, which could still technically be correct. We don't have to know. We don't know yet. As of currently, because of the Artemis rideshare that failed, the only mission that is currently en route to the moon with the intent to try and land is the Hakuto R mission 1 that was launched on Falcon 9 just a little bit ago, but it's still on its way to the moon, hasn't made the landing attempt yet. And so that I would argue is the front runner currently, but we can't say any of them got it wrong because we don't know if that will be successful or not. Although question doesn't specify whether it would land successfully. So I guess if it hits the moon, it counts. We'll have to come back to that one though. But the prediction is Nova C, and can't say whether they were right or not yet. So we'll have to come back to that. So full props to Mr. Chris Gebhardt for winning the totals here. He got 10 out of the 14 questions that had answers, because the 15th question we don't actually know. But Christy, you get 10 out of 14. You get a sticker or something. I don't know. We didn't put any stakes on this. But Christy wins that 10 out of 14 correct. Steven, you got half of them right, and Ian, you got 8 out of 14. So thanks to the guys for making those predictions, and we will now take over.
Ian is in chat, by the way. I'm seeing it.
Wait, what's in chat?
Ian is in chat.
Oh, Ian's in chat.
I'm already
All right.
seeing him.
Ian, you did 8 out of 14. Not too bad, buddy.
Says I'm a fool. Oh,
I'm a
don't
fool.
say that.
No.
Wait for this.
We're gonna look
coming up now.
worse. Don't worry. We're gonna look worse here with our predictions.
Now that we have done Harpy on Chris, Steven, and Ian, it is time for us three to make our predictions. And also, we have predictions from the rest of the NSF team to share. Also, still doesn't look like Booster 7 rollout is particularly imminent, so we'll get to that when it happens. But let's move into predicting 2023. And again, chat, I'm going to ask you all for your predictions as well. And of course, we all know what the first question is going to be. How far will Starship progress this year? Last year, we thought it was going to be in orbit by now. It is not. And you can see here, 3 of us, myself included, predicted that Starship will reach orbit this year. Me and the 2 Chris's are on the same page on this one. But Adrian and Alex, you both think it'll reach liftoff, but not reach orbit this year. Alex, you get to go first. Explain.
Well, I thought that there's still some chances that it lifts off this year. I don't want to commit myself to go all the way to saying it will reach orbit. Just living at liftoff at least.
All right, Adrian, any added context to your prediction here?
Well, I think there might be small margins in the first flight, and like it only takes like a bit of an underperformance to get to a situation where orbit suddenly is no longer what they would reach. And I think there's also some good chances during MECO, second stage ignition. Like there's a lot of events coming up before that. So I think even reaching liftoff this year and some milestones after that would be a great success. So I predicted that, and I didn't dare to do orbit.
See, I am already wrong on one thing, because in the past people have asked me to predict a launch date for Starship Orbital Flight, and on air I have said the Falcon Heavy anniversary in 2023. However, Elon tweeted just the other night that end of February, he said they have a real shot at the end of February, but that March was like more likely. So I think I'm going to be wrong on that one. But my overall prediction is that it will reach orbit this year, and I will go as far to say that the first Starship orbital attempt will in fact reach orbit. That doesn't mean if some ground testing failure happens and destroys the vehicle or something, that doesn't count, because that's not the orbital launch attempt. First time Starship full stack lifts off, it will reach orbit successfully. You can quote me on that. And I've set myself up for failure there. But anyway,
yeah,
there's my prediction there. Chat's saying, I think orbit. Let's see. Stefan thinks that they'll reach a booster static fire of all engines. Yeah, so you could. I forgot. These are the slides of like what we had to answer, and Michael gave us some options. So thought either full stack, either 33 engine, or if they move to a different booster with different engines or something, who knows? But static firing all of the boosters' engines, lifting off our orbit were our options there. A lot of people in chat say orbit, and I'm going to side with them. I'm glad to see some optimism there. There we go. All right, so chat's feeling optimistic as well, and I'm thankful for their support on my prediction then.
Why didn't we make Michael fill this out, by the way, when he's
oh yeah, Michael, did you have to predict any of this? What's with that?
Yeah, he has
Michael
to
made the questions and then didn't answer them. That's not fair at all. I guess he's not a commentator.
He should answer with a
Michael, you should tell us in the back channel what your predictions are. I can relay them if you want. Really quick, I want to speed run some super chats and things before we move on to our next prediction here. Jim Cavett, thanks for gifting a red team membership. Much appreciated that. And let's see, Westy the Third, my Sunday contribution. Happy New Year to NSF and all of the community. One thing we all know is there's going to be one busy year. I think we could agree on that. There's like 6 orbital launches scheduled for tomorrow, like worldwide or something like that. So yeah, it's going to be busy next year, or this year, I should say. James Heal, thanks for becoming a Capcom member. Hope to see you in the Discord at that member of the level of YouTube membership. I can word. Thank you so much, James, for the support there. Moni Space Industry says news director fan club and also her human #Thomas fan club. I think referring to Val. Val's out and about right now. She won't be making a cameo on today's show, but appreciate the support there. All right, moving on to the next prediction. When will Vulcan launch? Last year, we've correctly predicted it wouldn't be last year, but this year looks pretty likely. And let's see, are all three? Oh yeah, all three of us are in the Q3 prediction. So Vulcan is currently officially no earlier than March, I believe. So that's technically Q1. But given the reasonable delays and things, I think slipping to Q2 or Q3 seems to be the consensus among the NSF team. Nothing too crazy here. Chad, what do you all think about Vulcan? And while those answers come in, Adrian and Alex, one of you want to provide some rationale for your Vulcan prediction?
Yeah, nothing spicy from me here. It's just like the usual. Okay, it's a new rocket. There might be delays. There will be delays, actually. I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, I think overall this is pretty calm.
Yeah, for me is that we're already in 2023. We were promised that, Tori tweeted a few months ago, yeah, I will ship in November or something like that to the Cape, and we're in January 2023, and Vulcan is still not at the Cape. And so that was my rationale for voting Q3, because it needs to get there, it needs to be stacked, it needs to go through whatever pre-launch testing. We know they did some testing with a Pathfinder. I think it was a year and a half ago. Like, it was a long time ago. But they still need to test the actual vehicle that they're going to launch. And I believe they even have a static fire test or something in the plans. So there's a whole sort of things that they need to do, and it's not just you put it on the launch pad and just ready to go. As we've seen with many other vehicles such as SLS, Starship, and so on and so forth, you need a lot of these testing to go right, and sometimes it just doesn't. And so that's sort of what I'm thinking here. That March date is going to lay at least 3 more months, maybe June, July timeframe, which already puts it in Q3. That's sort of my thinking.
All right, chat's starting to. We got a couple predictions in chat saying Vulcan will not launch until 2024, so that's probably the pessimistic end of the spectrum here. We got Tony Jepson going on record saying that Q3 feels pessimistic, so he'll guess Q2. We do have a question here from Simon. Will they have updated Vulcan plans to try and recover those precious BE4s on the first attempts already? I believe not. I believe BE4 engine recovery is coming later down the line as a feature evolution, but a good question there.
I think also to side note there, I think it also is the question is even the BE4s they have right now, are they even reusable? Because there might be the situation where they're not even designed to already be fired over and over again. So this might come down the line, but definitely not for the first flight.
Some people have mentioned in chat that what are Das's predictions?
Oh yeah, Das didn't predict any of these. He's the commentator. He does. All right, we'll get back to you on Das's predictions, but he doesn't get off the hook because he's a commentator. All right, we got to make sure he responds there. Really quick, all right, one follow-up question before we move on from Vulcan. Aravale says, what will the first Vulcan payload be? This is a worthwhile prediction because if Peregrine faces a delay of some kind, they could launch with something else. So does anyone want to feel lucky and predict that it will be something other than Peregrine?
I'm gonna say Peregrine.
I'm thinking
Alex?
the same here.
Yeah, all right. I think I'm on that same page too. Although I will add the caveat that there's also secondary payloads. There's a couple Kuiper test stats or something. So there's other things on it too. So technically, But I think I'll agree with that Peregrine will remain the first flight based on Vulcan readiness at this point. All right, before I move on, a couple super chats that have come in here. This goes back to the previous prediction. Meaningless. I got a randomly selected trip that allowed me to go see Artemis 1 in person, and now I have a randomly scheduled trip to South Texas in early March. Should I keep my fingers crossed? Well, if you win 1 for 1, that's lining up as of now. That lines up pretty nicely. I wish you best of luck, but maybe don't keep your fingers crossed. I wouldn't promise anything. All right, and here we go. Got a big super chat here that's coming here. Remy, 250 euros is a lot of money, and we greatly appreciate that amount of support, Remy. And Remy asks, or says that the wife and I are on a launch spotting vacation here in Florida. And where will you guys be filming this week so we can come say hi without obstructing the view? Remy, thank you so much for reaching out. Unfortunately, we usually do our broadcast from on the base, so general public, not a general public viewing area. So not sure we'll be able to meet up with you there. But if you're on the Discord, I've seen your name before. If you're on the Discord, ping like me and Chris G, because Chris G, ping the Florida folks, and maybe we can try and meet up or something. But Remy, thank you so much for your support.
I believe we have had meetups. Well, not we as
we've
me,
had
but
meetups
like
before. I don't know if we have any planned
Florida.
this week. I'll have to see if we're doing a Falcon Heavy meetup or something. If you are interested in NSF meetups, the way to do that is to join the membership program at the Capcom level or above, so you have access to the Discord. That's where all that stuff gets organized. So membership plug. But ping me over on the Discord if you're in there, Remy, and we'll see what's going on there. But regardless, best of luck seeing the launches. We've got OneWeb launching tomorrow night, and we got Falcon Heavy coming as well. Speaking of which, check out the Falcon Heavy merch on the NASASpaceflight.com shop. All right, that's enough plugging for now. Let's move on to the next prediction. Here it is. Oh, this one. Okay, Michael, this was mean.
This was
a spicy question. So the question was, what is the highest profile launch provider that will be acquired this year, and who will acquire them? Some of these make a lot of sense, so I'm going to jump to a couple of these. Adrian, you predicted that Firefly will be acquired by Northrop, and of course, that's not completely unfounded. There's already a partnership there, right?
Yeah, first off, I want to point out that I'm the only one on air right now that didn't chicken out on this question. Just as a side note here. And then I think from a standpoint that they're already working together, and it makes sense. Like if you as in the position of Northrop are confident in a partnership going forward, you might want to save on like margins, you might save on costs that you pay just because you're working with another company. So at some point, Northrop might be like, well, why don't we just buy them? So I think, I'm not sure if it necessarily, for example, happens in this next year, but I think from all the I could predict, that would be the one I would say it's a possible one.
All right. So yeah, and on that front, especially for some added context, especially for those who may not be here in the United States or are not super familiar with like the broader aerospace industry, Northrop Grumman is not just a space company. We see them when they launch Antares and Cygnus, which is like twice a year, and they do lots of satellites and things like that, but they don't seem like a very prevalent like launch provider, especially compared to like SpaceX, ULA, something like that. Here's the thing. Northrop Grumman also builds airplanes. They build weapon systems. Northrop Grumman is a huge aerospace company here in the US. They don't just do rocketry. So they're a much bigger company than Firefly, for example. And so even though like Firefly Alpha might launch 3 or more times this year, whereas Antares is only, well, actually Antares is only going to fly 1 more time. Bad example. But you see, even though Firefly might have a much higher launch cadence than Northrop Grumman does, you have to remember that Northrop as a company is much wider. So that makes a lot of sense what Adrian's predicting there. I don't know if I'll predict that acquisition, but obviously there's a partnership there. So to some degree, Adrian is already right, I guess. I don't know. But me and Alex have to be put on the spot here because both of us refuse to answer the question.
Well, that's not entirely true.
Yeah. So Alex, why don't you go ahead? I'll go after you.
I just didn't do a direct answer, and it's that one of the things that I said is that I'm not really good. Like I'm not really good at the predicting investments and things like that. I don't even think I would be here if I were good at that, to be honest. But one of the things that I did say as an answer is that for next year, this, instead of being launch provider, it should be a space company in general, because there's a lot of high profile acquisitions of satellite companies like Maxar and things like that, acquiring other companies.
The problem is there's like so many of those companies though.
Yeah, but they actually have a higher share of market. Like they actually have more money in their hands when they do these transactions and acquisitions. So
Mhm.
I will argue that in some sense that is even higher profile. But obviously you will have to broaden that to not just launch providers, but also space companies in general, like satellites, tugs, you name it.
I'm getting a lot of cool predictions in chat. I'm going to get to these in a second. I want to answer the rest of the ones that we've got on the board here, though. We got two predicting that Astra could be acquired, which would make sense given that their launch vehicle currently grounded. They're still working towards their next flight. Could be cash issues there. Also, I mean, some of these. Here's the thing: some of these companies, are publicly traded, and so there's public numbers on their financial figures. But none of those. My problem with predicting this is that none of those also factor in like fundraising and things like that because it's hard to predict that. And Virgin Orbit is kind of in the same block here. I'm surprised no one has said Virgin Orbit here, given because their financials don't look good. But again, all these companies could raise money by new investors and things like that. So it's hard to predict that, which is why I kind of refuse to answer the question. I could predict that no high profile launch providers will be acquired in the next year. Again, if we're not counting all space systems companies because there are way too many satellite companies. Someone will get acquired by someone. But
it says highest profile though. So there are many,
right, yeah.
and they merge with
so there will be
each other
some
and
high
everything.
profile one, but if I
Okay.
had to really answer the question, I would say that no launch provider gets acquired this year. So I will go there. Another interesting one, our own Hagen Warren predicted that Launcher could be acquired by Relativity, which is an interesting thing. Remember, Launcher just has the on orbit, like the space tug that just flew on transporter. So they have like a successful, or at least being demonstrated, like space systems part of their company. And maybe a company could see that as valuable, very similar to the Astra situation, actually, and say, all right, we'll acquire them for that, and then we'll kind of dissolve their launch vehicle program in favor of our own. So there's an idea, But anyway, there's an interesting prediction, and both me and Alex, as well as Jack, Sawyer, and Nick, all got off the hook on that one, I guess.
I'm reading chat, and there's
all right. Let's get to some chat predictions because some of these are crazy. First of all, Mike
acquired
Smith.
by Speed Launch.
Wait, hold on. Where did you see that?
33 Raptor says NASA acquired by Speed Launch.
NASA
Chris
acquired
B
by
said
Spin Launch. I don't think
by
that's how it works.
Yeah, Chris B said Arca acquired by Phantom Space.
I don't think either of those companies are acquiring anyone these days, but that's hilarious. SpaceX buys NASA, Mike. I don't think that's how SpaceX buys Blue Origin. That one could at least theoretically happen, but it's not going to. Oh man, no one mentioned anything regarding Rocket Lab here. Let's see. Tony says Rocket off the wall. Rocket Lab buy Blue Origin. I don't know. I feel like Rocket Lab launches too frequently, and they have too many programs going on to be acquired there. So we'll see. But anyway, any other good chat ones?
SpaceX buys SpaceX.
Now, how exactly does that work, chat? What do you mean SpaceX buys SpaceX? Claire, I see you in chat. That doesn't make any sense.
That reminds me of Swarm. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, so SpaceX owns the Swarm Technologies company now, and they were on the Transform mission. Swarm tweets, "Thanks SpaceX for the ride."
Thanks.
Swarm is SpaceX now. Oh yeah, here's one. So Tony Jepson in chat said, more seriously, Virgin Orbit will either die or be bought. And I was surprised Virgin Orbit didn't come up in any of these predictions. I think them and Astra are on similarly precarious financial grounds. So if people are willing to predict Astra, Virgin Orbit, Adrian, I see you raising your hand. Do you have something to share with the class?
Yeah, the reason why I didn't predict them is because I asked myself, is there another company that sees value in acquiring them?
Sure, right. So that's the other thing. It's not just a company is in a financial situation where they want to be bought. Is it worth buying them? So hence, I think Tony's saying Virgin Orbit could also simply go away and not be bought by anyone.
Yeah.
Don't know. They're working towards their first launch from the UK as early as tomorrow, and we'll see what their launch cadence in 2023 ends up being. But either way, an interesting name to throw out into this conversation. One more chat message here. Okay, Rocket Man, you're cheating. It said AirJet Rocketdyne acquired by L3 Harris. Yes, that actually happened, and that was last year. So it's not official yet. So maybe that technically becomes 2023. But I don't think that counts considering they've already announced that that's going to happen. Wright predicted that Rocket Lab will acquire Redwire. I thought Redwire was a Boeing company. I'm Googling this.
I know they have contracts between each other and things like
I don't
that.
know, Redwire is under contract by Boeing. That's the iRosa thing.
Yeah, that's for the iRosas.
Maybe they didn't acquire Redwire. Maybe I got that wrong. All right, never mind. All right,
That
so
is
that
saying
Wright
no.
predicts. All right, sorry about that. Well, then Wright predicts that Rocket Lab will acquire Redwire Space. Redwire does a lot of work with the iRosa solar arrays and a lot of other space systems kind of things.
Someone
So
mentions
that's
in chat that
interesting.
we should have Michael Sheets once for these kind of acquisition
Oh,
things.
for the yeah, he would be the expert on the financial kind of things. We're gonna
Also,
get Mr. Sheets on here.
I think on the Redwire situation also is like, would Boeing, which has a lot of money and a lot of resources, would just allow a partner they're working with to just
To go
be
to somewhere
acquired?
else.
Yeah, like there might be a situation where Boeing's like, no, we might just buy you then because they have the resources. So there might be also like that situation there.
Modi Space Industry says DAS is going to buy one of those Earth imaging CubeSat companies. I wouldn't put it past him. Wouldn't put it past him, guys. All right, before the next prediction, a couple more super chats that have come in here. Brett actually has a question relating to the launch acquisition we just talked about, or potential. Obviously, it's not actually happening right now. But Brett says, why did the Transporter 6 mission fly over Cuba? I thought they had to avoid overflying land. They do until a certain point. Basically, it's a risk assessment of like what the probability of a failure resulting in debris landing on a populated area is. And by the time the mission, the trajectory is like crossing Cuba, the time in the mission where if a failure happened, the impact point would be Cuba is like maybe a second or two. So the risk level of something landing on Cuba is very, very small because it's so far downrange.
And
That's
also
why
at the same time, by that time, the second stage will basically probably burn up in the atmosphere.
And yeah,
almost
like the
completely.
risk of anything significant surviving too, exactly.
Yeah.
So
And every
that's why
transporter mission has done that. So yeah, it's not just Transporter 6, but also every transporter mission. And OneWeb, the OneWeb launch will also be
the
like
polar
that.
corridor
Also
flights overall.
Yeah, the previous one was also like that as well.
So that hopefully that answers your question there. Thanks for the support. And Sean became a Capcom member as well. So Sean, thank you so much for your support. Greatly appreciate it. Claire, why would Blue Origin buy SN15? Anyway, moving on. Next prediction. Let's see what is next. All right, will Dream Chaser reach orbit? All right, this ties in with an earlier prediction because we earlier asked if Vulcan would reach orbit this year, and all of us on the air here currently agree that Vulcan would fly this year. However, Dream Chaser is currently slated to be the second flight of Vulcan. So based on when Vulcan does fly, that obviously affects our answer because there's two ways this answer could be no. Either Vulcan's not ready or Dream Chaser's not ready. And I will go first because I've been making you guys go first all show. I will go first and say that because of both of those factors, Dream Chaser will not reach orbit. Both vehicles will not be ready for a second flight by 2024 is my current prediction. So I'll go into a little bit more detail there. Adrian, looks like you're agreeing with me. Dream Chaser will not fly this year. Want to add some rationale to yours?
I don't see a situation where we see how long it right now takes them to get Vulcan to the first flight, and we have not seen that super much progress on the second flight. So I just don't see a second Vulcan being ready this year. That's like, I have a hard time imagining that.
Yeah, I'll also add that Sierra Space has not provided many updates at all on Dream Chaser status, which is very disappointing. It's a cargo vehicle under contract by NASA to resupply the ISS, and we've gotten almost nothing in the way of updates from them, which is disappointing.
They did an
from
update the
a
other day, and it was about the next one. Apparently, the
Right, yeah.
DC-201, something like that. I don't know, DC-201. It's a weird one that they're now designing or whatever. But yeah, it's weird.
So anyway, so me and Adrian both saying no. Alex, you said the Dream Chaser would fly this year. Care to explain your reasoning?
Yeah, the answer is twofold there, because I think there's chances it doesn't fly, but I'd prefer to be a little optimistic here. But if it does fly, I'm thinking it'll be Q4 of this year. I don't think it's gonna be earlier than that. And the culprit will probably be because of Dream Chaser rather than Vulcan, I'm thinking. Mostly because of those, all the preparation to get Dream Chaser ready. I believe one of the phases of readiness is actually putting Dream Chaser on this giant vacuum chamber at Plumbrook, I think it is. So it's gonna take a long time to actually get it ready for flight, and we don't know much. The last time we saw it was basically still getting tiles. So
Right.
I'm not sure we'll see it this year. I prefer to be optimistic, as I said, but if it does launch this year, it's going to be Q4. I'm not seeing it earlier than that.
All right, so there we go. Dream Chaser. A couple of varying predictions there. We'll see if that spacecraft reaches orbit this year. Of course, when it does, they will all be pretty excited about that because a space plane coming back and landing on the shuttle landing facility, that's not super classified and we can't see it live, will be very exciting. Excited to see sonic booms here on the Space Coast again for a space plane as well. But before we go to our next prediction that we asked the team, I also got a random question here from Chris Salmon in chat who says, is 2023 the year that Starlink is spun off as a publicly traded company? SpaceX, or yeah, I think Elon has floated the idea of Starlink being spun off as its own IPO. I don't know if that comes this year though. I feel like you'll want like Starlink V2 flying and like operational by then, right? What do you think?
I think right now we're in a situation where there's not a lot of capital just to get, because people are a bit more hesitant to, like, it's more on the investor side, but you would want to IPO in a situation where people are ready to invest money into you because, hey, you want that money. Yeah, I don't think, I think they would branch out and then IPO in one step so they could generate money for Starlink. And I don't see that happening this year because that market is just not in a situation where you can just easily collect money.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will agree with what you said, Thomas, about Starlink V2 being up and running. That also goes hand in hand with a Starship, with a few asterisks here and there.
Yeah, you gotta read the Group 5-1 launch article. Alex wrote all about it, about how it was
Fine.
kind of it was Gen 2, but it wasn't V2. It was very confusing.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we'll probably have to wait for the ones that launch on a Starship and like have at least even like half of the constellation up and running, and like a healthy customer base. They said last year that they had, towards the end of last year, they said that they had 1 million subscribers. I think maybe once they get to about 5 million or so, that's probably when it might be stable enough to keep going, at least without the need of being private and everything. But we'll see.
Interesting. All right. Well, thanks for the added question there, Chris. Also, circling back to Dream Chaser here slightly, Daniel is asking if Dream Chaser could be moved to launch on Falcon 9 instead. So Dream Chaser, at least the cargo version, is what we call launch vehicle agnostic, which means it can launch on any launch vehicle that, as long as it fits in the payload fairing. So Falcon 9 is like physically capable of launching a Dream Chaser mission. Remember, it just launches in the fairing on the cargo version. It doesn't need like in-flight abort capability for crew or anything like that. So you wouldn't need to do like any weird modifications or anything like that. We just need to adapt it to the payload adapter. The reason you wouldn't want to do that is because obviously Falcon 9 is also the Cargo Dragon launch vehicle. And because Dream Chaser is one of the cargo resupply vehicles, you want dissimilar redundancy between your launch services there. So you don't want Falcon 9 to launch multiple cargo vehicles. You want each one to have its own rocket, basically. Cygnus launching on Antares. It's temporarily launching on Falcon 9. So there are caveats there as they bridge the gap towards the next version of Antares. But other than that, long term, the plan is always to be basically each cargo vehicle has its own launch vehicle. So if any cargo vehicle or rocket has an issue, it doesn't affect the other's availability to resupply the station. But a good question there, like in an emergency or to bridge a gap or something like that, that is technically possible, yes. All right, what is our next prediction here? We talked about Dream Chaser. So the next, so this is the Artemis prediction that I alluded to earlier today. Michael asked us to predict who would be most likely to be selected for the Artemis 2 mission. We are expecting the crew of Artemis 2 to be announced kind of any time now. They said they would do it once Artemis 1 flies. So a couple of names that are on the list here. We got Victor Glover, Anne McClain, Jessica Meir, and Johnny Kim. All of those are named as members of the Artemis, I forget, the Artemis core, Artemis team or something like that. There was a group of astronauts that NASA announced were like delegated as eligible for Artemis mission selections. And let's see, who did we predict here? Adrian, you predicted Victor Glover, who of course flew on a Crew Dragon mission. Not this year, last year, right?
Yeah, I screwed up.
You screwed up. What do you mean you screwed up? Was that not? Do you change your mind now?
Yeah, because I thought about it, and that means if he flies on 2, he probably won't fly on 3. And I actually think Victor Glover will be the person that next sets foot on the moon. So I screwed up. I will basically one up that prediction and say I think Victor Glover will be the next person to put a foot on the moon, and I screwed up here with predicting him for Artemis 2. That's, I don't know. My brain was weird there when I predicted that.
All right. So a correction there from Adrian. No worries there. Let's go ahead and all right. Well, so then all right. So now I got to circle back before we go to Alex. Adrian, who is your new answer for who will be selected on Artemis 2 then? Because it's not Victor apparently.
Yeah, it's a funny situation because you need to predict a person that they wouldn't want on 3, but they still want to, like, it's a weird. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that when I answered this question, but
now
that is a
you
very,
guess
very
why
good point.
I answered none of the above.
Because you think, yeah,
Exactly, because I think none of those will fly on 2, but might fly 3, 4, and so on.
Yeah,
so there you go.
I think
I should have done more research on this.
Yeah, like now that you think about it, it's actually quite a complicated question.
It is because especially also consider the following: Artemis 2 is like a test flight, right? So think like Demo 2. Both Bob and Doug were like test pilots historically as well. So like to be on Artemis 2, you're probably going to be a test pilot, and you're also maybe are not as experienced as the Artemis 3 astronauts. Like I was thinking, okay, who has already flown to the ISS, so and then would be like eligible for Artemis 2 is where I went, and maybe that's valid. But I could also see them saying, no, we want to reserve them for Artemis 3 or for other landings. And so Artemis 2 could be like an astronaut could make their first flight on Artemis 2 in theory. That would be like insane. But that's more likely than having their first flight on Artemis 3 or something like that. You know what I mean?
You got to think about the fact that there's a lot of astronauts in the corps at NASA that are like from the 2000s still and like have had long careers, even though they might have not flown a lot to the ISS and things like that. They have been in the corps for a long time, and they have had the capability to actually work on Orion program for almost since the beginning, compared to these folks, which are a little bit more newer. Well, I'm McLean and Jessica Meir and Victor Glover are from 2013, I think they are. But Johnny Kim is from 2017, for example, which is not a long time ago, compared to the other ones, which are like early 2000s and all of that. I'm thinking for Artemis 2, we'll probably see more like a veteran crew in that sense, people that have been in the programs at NASA for a long time. They might not have launched a lot to the ISS necessarily, but probably have had a lot of history inside NASA, and they are test pilots as well, which there are quite a few at the agency. So we'll see. But for Artemis 3, I'm thinking more of an approach of maybe Victor Glover, for example, which has already gone to the ISS. It's more of a new breed of astronauts. It's also kind of the same test pilot kind of thing. New merch. Now it's
oh yeah, sorry Alex.
my face.
Someone ordered the Artemis 1 shirt, so we don't get to see it for a couple seconds.
The other thing, the other people I'm thinking about, for example, is the commander for Crew 5, Nicole Mann. That's
okay, yep.
That's another
That'd be a good prediction
that I'm thinking for Artemis 3, for example. So there's a lot of astronauts in the core of astronauts that it's more likely than these 4. So that's why I chose none of the above for Artemis 2. For Artemis 3, maybe we'll see a few of them.
Adrian and I are both trying not to laugh too hard. That Adrian,
come on!
Alex just keeps getting blocked by people ordering stuff on the shop. This is,
I think this is the first. And now I'm being blocked.
I think we thank you so much for your support. If you want to keep blocking Alex's face on NSF Live, you can keep buying stuff. Then look, another one.
There you go.
So much.
Blocking heavy. Hey, Falcon Heavy.
This is the first NSF live show with that feature, and I don't think we predicted this. So oops.
I don't think whoever
Um,
programmed that thought that through. I'm just saying, Michael.
Michael,
I just got. Oh, good. Look.
they're just gonna
Mark,
keep
hey,
coming here.
it's
I'm
a
not. I'm gonna
Starbase
keep
bug
going.
on
It's
Alex
Alex isn't here
bag.
anymore. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, so someone else had a question related to Artemis. Do we think that the SLS cargo variant will fly? I'm pretty sure that's already officially canceled, isn't it? Like I'm pretty sure the cargo variant of SLS is basically dead now.
Yeah.
It'll only fly crew. There's still upgrading to Block 1B so that it can carry crew and cargo. There are plans to co-manifest a payload with Orion, and Artemis kind of brings it along to the gateway or something like that. So that exists. But like the pure cargo with like a big payload variant on top is dead. No plans for that currently. All right. Speaking of Artemis, we should check in on another Artemis vehicle. I know some people in chat are asking about it. Booster 7 has not moved. There's your Booster 7 update. We're keeping an eye on it. Again, we're keeping an eye on Booster 7 rollout preparations there. You can see it in the Mega Bay. See some starships in the was that the High Bay? There's the High Bay and the Mega Bay. I've lost track of what these buildings are called at this
Mega Bay,
point.
the one on the right.
Yes, boosters in the Mega Bay and still there. We'll let you know if
Boosters
a
there.
rollout happens during the show, obviously.
Yeah,
But
there was supposed to be an intermittent closure in like 4 minutes, and the
yeah,
boosters is still there.
yeah, it doesn't look like they're getting close. But anyway, oh, one more. We got Artemis super chat questions here from James Drury, so we'll answer this before we move on to more predictions. Well, I guess this is kind of a prediction. When will well, no, not really. When will Artemis 2 SRB stacking start? Those booster segments are already that they're already like casted and built. I think they're still in Utah. I don't think they've shipped to Kennedy yet. But the SRB segments are already existing, and so the question is, when will stacking start? I think I don't know if Philip's watching. I need Philip here to answer that question because I know he knows the answer. But it'll be later this year. Anyone want to predict that, I guess?
I'm gonna say until next year, 2024. I don't think Artemis 2 is gonna happen in 2024. I think it's gonna fly in 2025. Therefore, I think the stacking will start next year rather than
It's
this
like
one.
it's more like a situation where it's not really the pacing item for the mission. It's more like, okay, we can now see that this might the mission might happen soon, so we will now stack the boosters because they don't want to stack them too early. Because I heard some discussion about certification of stacked boosters before, in like 1 or 2 situations. So yeah, I think they just wait for a concrete situation where they're like, okay, yeah, this works, and now then they stack it and get ready for it. So I don't think they will. I agree with Alex there. I think it will be early 2024 because I'm quite pessimistic on the timeline for Artemis 2.
Also, really quick, because I just mentioned it, and thank you to the Bat Channel for checking me on this. Up there we go. Now you're not blocking Alex. There you go.
Yay!
If you're at checkout, you got to wait until we go back into present mode. So Alex is back up top, and then you can block him again. But people in chat were asking where are we getting our info on the closure. There was a intermittent closure tweeted by the county sheriff, which is why we know there's a potential rollout today. But it's not on the website for some reason. I can't explain to you why, but there was a tweeted closure scheduled for today, which is why we know there's a potential rollout today. Thank you for the back channel for clarifying that for me so I could relay it to you all. And I hope it answers your question in chat for the people that are asking.
That's like I said the other day on Twitter, that reading these road closures, how things are gonna happen, it's a little bit like reading tea leaves. It's like, oh, there's now this road closure, and then the next one is like that, and so on and so forth. And you try to kind of predict what's gonna happen based on those closures. It's mess, but sometimes it's fun. It's fun.
Chat says try again, Alex ducked.
Oh, people now buying the stickers to block us.
Yeah, I think the stickers are the cheapest item on the. There we go.
There you go.
Nicely done, Michael. Michael's also telling us to move on to the next prediction, I guess. So we'll move into that. So next prediction. This is another bit of a spicy one. What will be the biggest mishap of the year? So let's go through and see what different people. Oh, there's some good ones. I haven't read all of these. All right. So Ian says that there's going to be a Starship failure during flight. That's again we talked about earlier how. First flight of a rocket, totally feasible that the first flight does not go perfectly. So Ian is predicting that a not perfectly nominal Starship flight Christy says something with Russia. I think that's what I predicted. Yeah, I went a little bit more specific. I said another Soyuz. Oh, I can't speak. Another Soyuz spacecraft has a problem affecting ISS operations. So me and Christy on the same page there. Let's see. Nick predicts that the DAS's robot army will become sentient and take over Starbase. That would be a mishap, Nick. I'll give you that. That would be a mishap
Yeah,
and a big one for
that
sure.
would
So
be
let's hope
big
you're
whoopsie.
wrong.
one of the year.
All right, Crispy thinks that SpaceX is going to be able to attempt a booster catch, but it's not going to work properly, and that'll be a pretty big mishap, the biggest one of the year. So that's a reasonable prediction, maybe. Adrian, let's ask you why you think that Super Heavy will run during a high engine static fire. So not during flight. You're thinking during a ground test, there's going to be a run. Are we talking like bigger than Booster 7 explosion?
Yes. So this is a prediction I have that also ties into my prediction that Starship won't shoot orbit this year, because I think there will be only one flight this year, and it will be after significant repairs.
It's quite the change
nice.
from last year.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, if you
I
buy
learned
the
my
metal
lesson.
print that's this long, it blocks half the screen. The Artemis
Holy
door
moly.
print takes up half the screen when you order it. All right, good to know.
Yeah, I just think that Booster 7 won't fly because this RD is doing the 33 engine static fire. That's my
Okay.
prediction right there. I think
Alright.
it is the most thrust ever produced by humanity. It is
Didn't they already do that with like the 14 engines or whatever, right?
I think they know because N1 needs like 21, I think. Like because technically
okay.
N1 produced thrust. So
No, that's true.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I was gonna say, Alex, you gotta like lean down here so we can see you. by the way.
at this point it becomes a meme. I love it. I just think there's a good chance that there might be something wrong, and I think that's with the hardware heavy program. It's kind of like a risk you take, and also we know Booster 7 has gone through, let's just say, a lot at this point. I don't know how this booster is still alive. So yeah,
I'm not dead yet. Reports of
Yeah, it's
Booster
like-
7's death are greatly exaggerated.
I love how I think we already predicted the death of Booster 7 like 3 times already, because we're like, oh no way they can recover from this.
It
And it's
can't survive this. It's dead,
Yeah.
and then they keep rolling it back out, and it's maybe even roll back out today.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right. So that's Adrian's prediction here. I already talked about my Soyuz prediction. Sawyer, same thing as Ian. Starship goes boom before it reaches orbit. Alex, you cheated. You had 2 answers. You can't answer twice. You got to pick one. All right. So it's either the Russians screw up the ISS somehow, or something explodes at Starbase. I would argue that
I mean,
any
this
like
year-
a mishap that like affects ISS operations is bigger than like a development vehicle exploding at Starbase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but my thing was, if this still left to me. My thing is that if it's not one, it's the other, because that's what happened in 2022. We had the explosion of Booster 7, and then we had Soyuz MS-22 leaking in the ISS. So it's either one or the other. There's bound to be something along those lines this year.
All right. Let's see. Hagen, similar idea with Soyuz, and Jack, similar thing as Starship. He specifies at stage separation is where he's expecting things to go on. All right. So basically, the general consensus is either Russia will screw something up, or Starship development will result in an explosion again, which again, part of the development program wouldn't be entirely unheard of. Yeah, and then of course we got the robot army problem. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. But either way, there's our mishap. Oh, yeah, I gotta read chat. Chat, what do you think? Chat's got a couple Starbase predictions here.
Chat is just laughing at me. Come on.
Chat's laughing at Alex getting blocked by store orders. I should genuinely say thank you everyone who's supporting. And if you're watching the stream and like ordering because you're watching the show and stuff like that, greatly appreciate the support. That's a great way to support us, and you get something for it too. You know, if you send a super chat, we get to answer your question or something like that. But if you get some merch to show for it, that's the best. So glad you guys enjoy that. Yeah, basically everyone is saying that Booster 7 will blow up or something like that, and it's kind of
Whoever
what chat's
gets these
consensus is.
predictions wrong needs to get the top bunk the next time.
Yeah, we got to rotate who gets up top. We got to keep an eye on that. Really quick before our next round of predictions, Jim Cavat, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Greatly appreciate that support as well. And let's see. I'm not sure I know what this question is asking, so I'm going to ask it to Alex and Adrian, and they can deal with it. Happy Cappy says, does NSF have any update on the new Starship lifting mechanism using the ship's lift points? No idea what they're asking about. Alex, do you know what they're talking about?
I have an idea. Yeah, I've seen some of those. And I'm not even sure. Like, I've seen the theories, but I've just seen. Like, I don't know. It's so little that we have seen in terms of hardware that I just cannot put it in my brain like how it's gonna be working and everything. So call me back in like a month or two if we don't see it already in
Okay.
action.
All right, we'll have to
Because
circle
I
back.
just, I don't have my brain actually ready for that kind of imagination of how it works and everything.
Also, we got a prediction in chat that there could be a Starship or Super Heavy incident at 39A this year. I don't think they're going to fuel a Starship at 39A this year, if I'm being honest. I don't think that was a prediction question we're going to get to, but I will predict that Starship, they could do like fit checks or something that I could see. I don't think they're going to fuel any vehicles at 39A because I think all the launch campaign stuff will still be at Starbase this year.
I have a thing. I have
All
a
right.
question for you too as well, and I will say my answer.
Okay.
Will we see any Starship vehicle at the Cape this year, like at any point?
At any
Yes.
point.
We know they plan on shipping them, but we'll see if it happens or not.
Right. Obviously, plans change every 5 minutes. So
I think they need for fit checks. Like at some point, they need like some sort of hardware to at least test out some of these equipment. So I don't think it will be any worth of a flight prototype or anything like that.
right. Like they could ship SN15 down if they want to. Like, hey, we
Yeah.
just need something that's Starship shaped, you know?
Yeah, like just ship one of the things that are stacking up in the rocket garden because, I mean, it's kind of full. So
I'm going to predict no Starship vehicles or Super Heavies at 20. No, okay. But before I finish that answer, would like a single ring of Starship diameter count? Like if they do a fit check, like listen, we just need something that's 9 meters diameter. Like, does that count?
like a
No, it
single
needs-
ring.
It
Yeah.
needs to be something that at least can hold any fluid. Like even if it's a test
Okay,
tank,
like
for
something
example,
that's a complete
will
tank
count that.
section that includes
Yes.
a tank section. Okay,
I will
fair
count
enough. Then
that at least as
then-
Starship hardware.
okay, then my answer will be no, not this year, next year.
Okay.
Okay.
I will say if it happens this year, because I'm 50-50 there, it's sort of like Dream Chaser in that case. If it happens this year, Q4. Otherwise, next year. That's my thinking.
All right, there it goes. We're adding to the prediction list. I'll have to make sure we have this documented for next year's review episode.
Write it down. Write it down.
Write it down. Tom Ray has gifted a red team membership. So Tom, thank you so much for that support. Stefan asking, can we predict how much bacon Jack will make this year? Much bacon, many bacon, lots of bacon.
There's a Jack prediction coming up soon.
Yeah, speaking of Jack.
Oh yeah. All right. You know what? I'll use this as the bridge. Thank you for referencing that. Our next prediction. How many times will Jack accidentally burp on a hot mic on NASA Spaceflight streams in 2023? There is a backstory to this. It happened, I think, once this year. I think it only happened once this year, right?
It happened on one live stream twice.
Oh, well, so
Yeah.
does that count as twice?
I
then?
was in that live
Yeah.
stream and I couldn't hold my laugh when it happened. Yeah, I think it was in the 14 engine static fire test of Booster 7. I
Oh,
think it was in
okay.
that one. The one prior to the 11 one. So there was 14 engines and then 11 engines, like 13 seconds or something. The one before. So 14 engines. The one with
Also,
the most
I would like.
engine.
All right, so I would like to point out. So on the left were the options that Michael gave us when answering this question. You'll notice that 0 is not an option.
It's not an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero, you
Michael was
cannot
like,
put
it will
0.
happen.
I
it will
gave Jack the
happen.
benefit of the doubt. It only happened once this year. Jack, I've got you. It's all good. Happens. Listen, we all have hot mic moments. It'll only be one. Adrian, you went middle of the road with 3. Any rationale on that you want to share?
Yeah, I think the potential Starship stakeout streams for the orbital launch with like 12
Oh,
hours
that's
of us
true.
talking or something.
If we're like waiting
There's-
for orbital launch, those are gonna be like 12-hour
Yeah.
streams.
Yeah, it will be like a lot of. Let's be real. We get kinda silly the longer the
We
stream
do.
goes,
We do.
and so
But hey,
I
you can
think
mute
there's potential.
yourself. I've
But yeah,
been
mute
coughing all
buttons
the
exist.
live
That's the
stream.
thing.
I've been
Yeah.
coughing and no one has heard that all the live stream.
It's like
today.
the overflying Cuba question. The longer period of time it is, the higher the risk level becomes. So Adrian's just doing the math, saying, "Listen, if we got too many 12-hour streams, probability goes up. So he's hedging his bet with 3. And then everyone else predicted 5 or more, basically. That me, Nick, and Jack at 1. Adrian at 3.
There's a booster
Boys?
moving.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've just seen it being
Jack, you're
lifted
going to save by the bell
SPMT.
here.
Booster 7 is being lifted and moving.
It's hard to see because it's a very slow booster.
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it
obviously it
moved.
moves pretty slowly. But all right, Booster 7 rollout preps underway now. We're definitely going to keep showing this as much as we can here. But Booster 7 looks like they're getting ready to roll it out to the launch site. I think, oh God, we're probably going to get stuck here. Because if they're rolling out when 4:30 Eastern rolls around, I don't think they're going to let us go off air. I think we might get stuck here, boys. I hope you guys don't have
Get your coffee ready. Get your coffee ready,
I mean,
chat. This is
thankfully,
gonna be a good
rollouts
one.
overall don't take that long. It's just going to extend
water.
NSF Live, maybe. We'll have to see. Oh yeah, you can tell Booster 7 rolling towards the exit of the Mega Bay right now, and getting ready to roll back to the launch site. That's a live view of Booster 7 rolling out of the Mega Bay. So thanks for the heads up there, and we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. That ends our Jack prediction. Let's move on to our next prediction, which does kind of have to do with Starship here, because we're talking about methane fueled rockets. And Adrian, we got to own up to this one, buddy. This is our moment where we apologize to the NASA spaceflight audience, because me and Adrian wrote an article. We co-wrote an article back in March of this year, and the headline, I know we're going to show Booster 7, so I don't know if we'll show the actual article, but the headline to the article that Adrian and I wrote back on March 13th was methylocks race likely to be won in 2022, but winner not yet clear. We were open about the fact that we didn't know which one would fly first, but we did predict that one of them would fly first and reach orbit. And unfortunately, Zuki 2 did it won part of the race. It flew first, but it did not reach orbit successfully. So me and Adrian get the clown emojis today, and methylocks rocket did not win the race in 2022. So what is the prediction for 2023? We've got 3, including both of you, predict Zuki 2 will reach orbit first. So Alex and Adrian. Adrian, you get to go first. You're our Chinese spaceflight expert. And, Zuki 2 flew once, didn't quite make it, but you think it'll be the first one to reach orbit as well?
Yes, because I think Terran 1 also still has a road ahead, and I think there will be some more delays there as well, and also there's a chance that Terran 1 might not be successful on the first flight,
right?
Just as I predict with Starship. It's not guaranteed that either of these will work just instantly. Vulcan is still a bit more down the line, as we predicted earlier. So I think Zuki 2 might be, based on hardware we have seen, and they showed on their social media, they are probably like 2-ish months away from flying again. So I mean, yeah, if you have a situation where okay, one of them already tried and they got pretty close. They only basically the last major event that failed. So if they can fix these,
right? They got pretty far. It wasn't like a early stage 1 failure or something like that.
Yeah, it was stage 2.5 kind of.
Yeah,
they locked 2 kilometers a second of orbital velocity. So yeah, that last burn didn't work. So I think they have a good chance and they're a good shot. So that's why I predicted Zuki 2.
Alex, you also produced Zuki 2. Would you like to justify your answer?
I'm gonna go with the Chinese launch expert here under me.
Just yielding to Adrian because he knows the answer.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be Zuki 2 because we kind of thinking that they might try again in a few months, and they were very, very close on that December attempt. So yeah, I think that second launch might actually go into orbit finally and hit that mark. But Terran 1 is right there, and the thing is it could fail on its first launch, whereas Zuki 2 will have already its second chance in the next few months. So that's why I chose Zuki 2, because I think Terran 1 is probably going to launch in the next month or 2, just like Zuki 2. But yeah, there's the fact of going into orbit, which usually on the first try is not a thing, unless your rocket has a lot of heritage on other previous rockets.
Sure.
Hopefully Vulcan might be one of those. We'll see.
Yeah, so predicting Zuki 2. I personally predicted the rocket we're looking at, Booster 7 and Ship 24. Well, I guess Booster 7 won't reach orbit, obviously, but Booster 7 will help launch Ship 24 and be the first methane-fueled vehicle to successfully reach orbit. The reason I predicted this is simply because I am more confident in Starship's ability to reach orbit on the first try than Terran 1. And Zuki 2, I think we'll just have too much time between now and its next attempt. Like, I think I would not be surprised for Zuki 2 to reach orbit on its next attempt, but I think Starship will fly first. And I think Starship's going to nail it first try. We talked already about
That's
Vulcan.
a
I think
bold prediction.
it is a very bold prediction. I'm not going to pretend it isn't, but that is my prediction. Also, I think
Okay.
Vulcan's going to reach first try. However, Vulcan will fly later in the year, so I think Starship's going to beat it out there. And Terran 1, I think Terran 1 has a chance to fly before any of these other ones attempt, but first ever flight with no heritage for the company or anything. So I think the odds of it succeeding first try are the lowest of these three of those four rockets, I think. So I'm predicting Starship because of that rationale. I think Vulcan will reach it on its first attempt when it flies later this year. Zuki 2 would not be surprised if that reaches on its next attempt again, even though it's the only one that's flown, and even though that flight failed, that's more than the other three rockets can say, right? So Zuki 2's got a pretty good chance. And Terran 1, I mean, it's pretty close to flight readiness ideally. So as long as it launches in the next couple months, even if it doesn't succeed on its first attempt, decent chance it still flies again this year and then succeeds. So all these rockets have very good chances of reaching orbit this year. But if I had to pick one to go first, I'll predict Starship.
I love that we have this race, by the way. I know you know both that I'm very excited about this race, and I know, Thomas, we talked about this when we came up with that article. It's cool to have this race. It's kind of meaningless. It's just a funny competition. Yeah,
like,
I do remember, I think it was Jeff Faust who said, okay, but who of
does
these
anyone actually
folks-
care about this race?
Yeah. Do they actually care about this? It seems like Relativity might actually care. Tim Ellis
has mentioned it a couple of times. And again, I think it's, it's not like,
It's
a
just a
huge
fun race.
deal. Like, it's for fun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think
like
it's
it's
more.
First.
Yeah, it's more noteworthy just simply because this new fuel has become the default for next generation rockets. I mean, other rockets that are not slated to launch this year, Rocket Lab Neutron is methylocks, New Glenn is methylocks. Am I missing any? Those are the two I'm thinking of.
Terran R.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure, but obviously that comes after Terran 1, so that's kind of a given. But yes, Terran R too. So yeah, like, yes, methane rockets are the default for next generation rockets now, which is interesting. So I think it's noteworthy from that perspective. Who wins the race will not ultimately decide anything, right? But it's interesting to talk about.
Yep.
All right. Really quick. Westy the Third says, "Great show this week. Speculations all around." Yeah, that's all the show is, speculation. But we're glad you're enjoying it, and we got a couple more predictions to go here. Actually, coming up on the end of the show, I say the end of the show, but rollout might give us some extra time here. Booster 7 exiting the Mega Bay for those who may just be joining us, and we're keeping an eye on rollout back to the launch site for Booster 7 down at Starbase. But anyway, let's move on to another prediction here. ABL is not methane fueled, but it is still attempting to reach orbit this year. We already talked about predicting last year. What did we get last year? What was the prediction there? Hold on. Oh no, we went 3 for 3 last year. They all predicted that it wouldn't be till this year. So
Yeah.
Let's revisit that prediction. We only got 3 people saying no. Nick, Crispy, and Sawyer all think that ABL will not successfully reach orbit this year. But the 3 of us are all in agreement that they'll get there this year. I'll start personally. They're going to launch pretty soon, and the odds of them reaching orbit on the very first attempt, probably pretty slim. However, because they're like literally could have tried as early as tomorrow, then they've got a lot of time where they will reach orbit at some point this year. So I'm going to go with yes, and I'll open up to Alex. Would you like to go next in explaining your answer?
Yeah, I would probably agree with that as well. I believe they also have the second rocket pretty much almost done as well. They are still kind of, like it needs pre-launch testing and things like that of individual stages and all that, but it's getting there. And so I wouldn't be surprised if after this launch, they launch again like the end of the spring, summer, something like that. I don't want that to be a prediction. The ones that you write down and then you clown me next year. But I think that's a possibility here, that maybe unless it's a huge failure that they have, I'm also on board with you that they might fly tomorrow, but even though I'm hoping they reach orbit tomorrow on the first try, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And so
Right. It's
some
just
mishaps,
unlikely and
some
a very tough task.
exactly.
Exactly.
So something might happen that will not. Oh boy!
Oh, hey
Look
yo.
at
Hey Alex, stop
holy
talking. We got raptors to look at. No, I'm kidding.
that.
Look at the engine covers.
It's funny because it's like they are here next to me.
This is the
Chat, check
this is
this
so
out.
weird to be on camera, by the way, to do this because
Yeah.
we're now in an NSF live setting where we are on
Yeah.
camera commentating this.
We don't usually, we don't
We-
usually live
You
stream
don't
these
usually get the
things with
face cam
camera.
reaction to, and
Exactly.
suddenly raptors.
Yeah, you basically will now see a compilation of us being like,
Yeah, we're all just gonna be like really close to the screen looking at it. If I'm not
With
mistaken,
the eyes like
Michael,
plates.
is this the camera feed? I think it is. Before I give anything away, I don't want to. Yeah, okay, thank you, Michael. Yeah, so this is a feed courtesy by none other than Mr. Jack Beyer, who is out there in the field at Starbase, providing this camera view from the production site. This is not a robot cam. This is a crude camera, and there's those beautiful Raptor engines on the bottom of Booster 7. Those engines could launch the first methane-fueled mission to reach orbit. Could also happen this year. Goes hand in hand with a couple of predictions we're making for this year. But yeah, you see it on the transport stand, which is on the SPMT. You can see some of the engine cover poking out there, as well as the engines themselves. It's a beautiful sight. It's very cool. We're expecting this vehicle to roll out to the launch site today. Back to the launch site, get reinstalled back onto the orbital launch mount, and hopefully be followed up very quickly with a ship stacking on top. And I see, all right, we're just abandoning NSF Live. The ticker, the overlay now says this is a Booster 7 rollout stream now. There we go.
Yeah.
Although it's got
NSF
Eastern
Live
time
is
on
like,
it.
go
Michael,
away.
we got to
Oh,
get
there we
that to
go, another
Central
order.
time. And thank you for the win hat.
It's not
order
covering me.
shirt. Yeah, Michael, we got up Central time. There you go. Also, it's CST, Michael. We're adjusting the overlay on the fly here. It should be CST,
yeah.
but otherwise, close enough. We get the idea. There we go. Thank you,
Wow.
Michael. Well done. Operating on the fly here.
Yeah, you can see all the engines, the R engines with the shields and everything. And we're kind of hoping that Booster 7 will finally have those shields already installed for this rollout, which, to be honest, it's been a long time coming.
It's
Okay.
it looks complete to me. Like if I
What do you
compare
mean,
this
complete?
to
You're seeing like 10% of the booster
Oh.
right now, Adrian. What do
yeah,
you
but like no, with the engine covers because earlier
okay.
when we saw them like rolling out and the engines are basically like free, just hanging there. You could see like cables and everything. It looked weirder. This now looks yeah, more complete, more comparable to other rockets, and I love this look. And also I love how you could see the SPMTs just reversing and trying to like move
Yeah.
this booster
Yeah,
somehow.
so we just like definitely backed out of the Meg Bay. Now it's like turning around. It's starting to move towards the exit of the production site. So yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. We're gonna keep that live. As far as I know, the three of us are around for a while, so I think NSF Live is gonna get an extension via Booster 7 rollout today.
It's weird
Um,
because we have now like actual faces and you know,
yeah, this is
we're
weird.
talking
So
about
weird.
things in the meantime, so you can see me like this all the
Yeah,
time.
if you see us like typing and stuff, now you'll see the behind the channel, behind the
Yeah.
scenes of like how we're all panicking and doing things during live streams.
There's a lot of things happening in the back channel.
See, one of
first
the things that I'm looking at here, excuse me, it's because I'm looking at a Booster 7 and it definitely looks more complete than the previous times that we see that we saw a rollout. For example, it shines here, right over here, I guess. You can see the bottom is already covered, which in the previous rollouts that was open. It seems like they are already like the seals in between the nominal segments of the chines are already sealed as well. So it seems like it's pretty much almost done, I guess. just needs the official ticker, take that. Yes, it's done.
Mhm. All right. Well, we got a couple questions and super chats here that have to do with Booster 7. So let's dive into those really quick. First of all, Andy says, go Booster 7. Good job, guys. Greetings from Colombia. Thank you for tuning in, Andy. Appreciate the support there and just thanks for watching. Also, Jerwa gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Jerwa, thank you so much for your support. Those in chat, if you were gifted a membership by Jerwa, make sure to thank Jerwa in chat. for that support. We greatly appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the membership perks for those who do get those gifted memberships. All right, back into questions here. We got a couple from this rollout. There was a -Z indicator on the transporter there. Alex, you want to explain to us what that means?
Yeah, so that refers to the see, now that we have faces, I can actually do things with my hands. That's actually the axis of the vehicle. So you have the x-axis going across the vehicle from bottom to top, and then the other plane is sort of the y and c axis. And so the C plus axis points to the QD of the booster, aka towards the launch tower. The C minus points outward, so basically the other direction. And then Y plus, I think it is to the left. So if you have C plus on your back, sort of like the tower is on your back, the Y plus is on your left. I believe it is the configuration. So that's more or less. So it will be like this, but
Yeah.
like
There,
this.
among reference
With,
frames, there is a rule called the right hand rule, Alex. That's
Right
what you're
hand.
trying to
That's
get at,
the
right?
right hand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. If
So it
you
will be the x-axis, the y, and then the
Z is the other one.
the
Yeah.
thumb
So
is looking at me C
all right.
plus. Yeah.
Quick physics lesson, Alex. Let's do it. So if right hand rule, if you're trying to define your coordinate axis, if you know where the x and y axis, the positive x and y axes are, you take your hand, you like point it in the positive x, and then you curl your fingers towards the positive y. If you do that, the way your thumb is going is the positive z. That gives you your third axis, and that's how you define a reference frame. So do that with.
Put it
Go
on your
next time
nose, the
if you're
thumb.
ever at Starbase, if you can find the two axes, you can figure out the third one.
This part of the stream is so much better with face cams.
Right,
because
yeah,
you
I
could
couldn't
see
do
me,
that
like,
without
Yeah,
face
right?
cams. It works
We can
out.
do that. Like, hey.
Oh man. All right. Let's see here. And then Gwen has another questions. This is kind of a prediction question, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Will this be the last time the Booster 7 leaves the production site? What do we think?
Yes.
Thomas, you go first because
I
you're
have to
the
go
one
first?
of the predictions of rollouts. You're the guy for that.
Oh yeah, I know, because I tweeted
Yeah,
when
yep,
SLS rolled. I was
you
like,
did.
oh man, SLS rolls out for the last
Mm-mm-mm.
time, and it wasn't the
Yeah.
last time.
So you go first.
Oh man, see now I want to flip the other way. I want to be pessimistic. Oh man, I'm gonna, no, I'll be optimistic. Especially, I predicted Starship would fly before the other methylocks rockets. Yes, Booster 7 will. This is the last Booster site. Oh my goodness, this is the last time that Booster 7 leaves the production site. And here's the reasoning: two things. First of all, it'll fly. But second of all, if it doesn't fly, if Booster 7 somehow breaks again, they could scrap it and move to a different booster, which means Booster 7 also never leaves the production site again. So the odds are Booster 7 never leaves the production site after today. So I will say yes, this is the last time. There you go. Adrian, you said yes too.
Yeah, I basically the same reasoning. Either it flies or it's is scrapped. But I do not like. Do we count in pieces? Like if it goes back to the production site and then it's then transported out ring by ring.
It's like half a point or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think this is the last rollout while it still has a chance to fly to orbit, to space. I think that's how I would word it.
Okay. All right, Alex, you're up.
Oh man, this is a hard question. Why do you ask me?
Because you're on the prediction stream. What do you mean?
I know. I was just joking. I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna be optimistic. Yes, this is the final time. Let's go.
All right,
Let's do
you heard
this.
it here.
Come on.
All three of us thinking yes.
Just gonna send it.
Just send it. Just send it.
Just send it.
Oh god. All right, Charles is asking, can we get a poll to always have faces on camera for live streams? Some of them it's hard. Like when we're out in the field, like at Cape Canaveral, like for when the one-way launch happens tomorrow and stuff like that. Like it's hard to do face cams out there. We did a little bit for Artemis when we were doing interviews and stuff, but it's not that easy to do.
I really like those
maybe we'll
interviews.
try. I mean, NSF Live, you always have it, but we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
The problem comes in if you have 12-hour like
And
long
yeah,
going
like
streams.
you gotta
Yeah.
get up,
Because-
go to the bathroom. You gotta get a drink. You gotta get some food. Not always
You underestimate how much we run around during streams. Sometimes
like furiously
it's-
typing on other monitors and stuff like that.
It's-
So
It's a whole
there's a lot of
thing.
multitasking that goes on. All right. Anyway, we got 2 more predictions to go through, so we should wrap up before we can before Booster 7 hits the road here. Do want to finish our prediction episode of NSF Live here. Normally the show would be ending soon. We had 2 more predictions. This one, who would launch the most rockets this year? And the option, I don't know if we're going to be showing the slide, so I'll say the predictions were, or the options were Astra, Firefly, Relativity Space, or Virgin Orbit. Of those, who would launch the most rockets this year? And I will remember that no one on the entire NSF team predicted Astra, which I think makes sense though, because if you ask me, I would say Rocket 4 isn't going to debut till next year
Yeah.
if it flies. So it doesn't really make sense to predict Astra in this question. So no one on NSF predicted Astra. I personally think I predicted Firefly.
Yes, you did. You and
did?
Alex predicted
Oh yeah, can you have
Firefly.
the? Me
Yes,
and
I have
Alex
it
both
open.
predicted Firefly,
And I
Yeah.
predicted Relativity.
and you predicted Relativity. All right, so me and Alex, let's do Firefly first. I predicted Firefly because they've already launched once. They've also successfully reached orbit. Virgin Orbit has also successfully reached orbit. However, they have been operational for a while and their launch gains hasn't ticked up. So I have a prediction that Firefly would tick up faster than Virgin Orbit did. I could see Virgin Orbit being the other kind of likely answer. But I went Firefly. Alex, you want to expand on your Firefly answer?
Well, hold on. Now, the Firefly, it's sort of what you said, that it's probably going to launch more times than the other folks, because as you said, Astra with Rocket 4 might not launch until 2024. The other one was Virgin Orbit. Yeah,
Mhm.
Virgin Orbit. Oh man.
Like
have been
logically, Virgin
struggling
Orbit should be able to
already.
take up their cadence faster than Firefly.
Exactly. Yeah, but in reality, we've seen that they haven't. And yeah, the other one was Relativity. Relativity is just about to launch for the first time.
Right.
It will be interesting if they actually do a second launch this year, but it's probably very tight. They also don't have like high cadence, or like they don't have like an ambitious high cadence of launches for Terran 1 just yet. I believe the first 3 flights are going to be like over a year and a half or something like that. It's going to take a little while. And then the 4th flight, if I remember correctly, is like with the Eon R engine, like one single engine instead of the 9 Eon 1. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, I don't think they're going to be like super quickly like, we got to get ready for the second launch, once they launch the first. That's
Right. You'll
another
have lessons to learn and things like that.
exactly. That's another reason why I think Firefly is going to be that one, because it's not Relativity, it's not going to be Virgin Orbit, and obviously Astra not as well. We'll see.
All right. So Adrian, you predicted Relativity, even though their first launch is just coming up here. And
Yeah.
the look on your face makes me think you might be second guessing yourself. What do you
No,
think?
no, I'm fine. I'm fine to defend this. I think, I mean, Firefly is only like a couple of months ahead. It's not that there's like it's not like if you compare like Rocket Lab to Relativity suddenly.
Right.
It's a bit more close, and I think Relativity's approach from the get-go has been to have a very scalable approach with the 3D printing, with a lot of things they might be able to easily reproduce once they are confident that it worked. So yeah, I'm quite confident they might launch like 2 or 3 times, and I think Firefly would have a hard time to also reach that number. Like I think I think they both won't go like above 4. I think it will be a race of like maybe one gets 2, one gets 3. It will be close, and I think Relativity will be ahead. That's my take on this.
All right. There's your prediction on that question there. Should address the fact that Jack's about to get run over by Booster 7. I'm kidding. I'm sure it's a zoomed in camera view. But it's coming
Let's
right
hope.
for us.
would be very like you cannot really get run over by this because it's so slow. You
Yeah,
have to
you just
actively
be
try.
pushed slowly along the road the
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah, but look at how close we get to these raptors. It's so cool.
This is cool.
Okay, let's. I mean, we'll put the.
I'm just gonna take this in for a couple minutes. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, the weights are blocking the view. So can we remove these, SpaceX? I think the answer actually to this is no. Quite literally, we cannot.
They had these counterweights here.
Oh, there we go. We're getting some SBMT audio as well.
Some audio. Yeah, I just asked that as well because it's like it's a silent rollout.
You can see the center engines being slightly lower.
Yep.
Yeah. Those counterweights, as I was saying, they were hooked up to the device that they had at the Royal Launch Hall just yesterday, I believe, for testing like the weight of the full stack on the clamps. That's kind of a thing that they have been doing all week. And yesterday we were able to finally remove those and roll them to the Mega Bay. And so yeah, I believe they used up so many of these counterweights. They were left out of those, and they used like coils of steel, which usually like many months ago, like at the beginning of the program setup. It was a little bit more janky in that sense that they used coils of steel as counterweights. Now they have proper counterweights, but yeah, they used up all of them for that test.
Gotcha. We got a couple super chats and stuff that have come in here. Tom Ray, thanks for the super chat support. We greatly appreciate that. Ron Smith votes for the Jack Belch cam, so we got one vote for Jack Belch cam. Appreciate that, Ron, your support. Ibanez says roll baby roll. Thanks for the support there as well. And then James Jury's hopping in on the predictions here, putting that Rocket 4 will not fly, and then Astra and VO Virgin Orbit are both burning through too much cash to survive. Goes back into our earlier prediction. We'll have to wait and see there. Obviously, it's kind of hard to predict that kind of thing, but we will see. All right. Anyway, I've got one more prediction question to get through, and then I think we'll just wrap up the prediction stuff. But I want to get through all of our predictions. The last one, we asked the NSF team which vehicle will fly crew next between New Shepard and Spaceship 2. I personally predicted New Shepard because Spaceship 2 seems to be grounded for a while, and they don't seem particularly close to flying again. Whereas New Shepard, I think they should be wrapping up their investigation on the recent anomaly, and they should hopefully be able to fly again soon. I would imagine their next flight will not have crew on board, just as another like return to flight opportunity. But I would imagine New Shepard will fly crew this year. Adrian, Alex, either of you want to give your answers and real rationale?
Yeah, I agree with I think Blue Origin so far seems very structured and very like straightforward in their New Shepard operation. So I have like very little doubt that they will have a very clean and clear way to clear New Shepard again for flight after the recent anomaly. So I have like I'm very confident in Blue Origin's ability there, which is not the case for other companies that are named in this prediction. So yeah, that's my reasoning. I think it will be pretty likely that we will see. I wouldn't be even surprised if we see like an announcement of New Shepard flying soon again. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see a tweet, "Hey, we found out what was wrong, and also we will fly again in, I don't know, 2 months." Also by Alex face again.
Yeah. Well, even then, I think like there was a public comment at a conference or something where someone from Blue Origin said, "We'll announce our investigation results when we also announce the next launch date." And so honestly, it might not even be a couple months. New Shepard could fly this month in theory if they're almost done the investigation. They said, "All right, we're ready to try again." I could see that happening. But anyway, Alex, New Shepard or Spaceship 2, even though you're talking behind a Texas Tank Watcher's order.
Yeah, I think my prediction was New Shepard. Basically, I think once they get the investigation done, they'll probably launch an uncrewed flight, maybe. We'll see. Just to test all the fixes and everything that they might need to do. Oh, there we go. More views
Enhance.
of 7 rolling. Enhance. And yeah, I think it's that is more likely than them Virgin Galactic flying again.
I think
Gotcha.
just as a side note, like I know there are a lot of memes sometimes about Blue Origin, and there's this whole but sometimes talking about them. But I think so far New Shepard was run pretty well in how they approach things and how they go from milestone to milestone. So yeah, I think that sparks confidence in the program. Like
Yeah, one of the things that
they're
we
good at
kind of
that.
talk about was that they did so many uncrewed test flights of New Shepard for years to get that confidence level of actually launching.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you here. They're knocking over cone by
I was
cone,
about to
and
say,
I've
like literally all the cones on the side of the road get knocked down as the booster rolls. I think that's happened before too. But what's the point? I'm very confused.
I think it's to block cars from parking there the day
Oh.
before, so they don't block during the rollout. But it's still funny to see them like knocking over cone by cone.
Those are the famous cones. When we see them,
Yes.
roll out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's. See, now you can see me actually laughing about these things.
I'm excited for the next cone because it's approaching.
Texas cone watching, new on NASASpaceflight. It's what we do now.
We
Yes,
need
you have to-
like a sound for that. Like Michael presses a
Bonk.
button, bonk.
It's like I love how we have this giant booster to talk about, and we are like, oh look, they're knocking over cones.
Yeah. So for those who may just be joining us, normally we have wrapped up the NSF live show by now, but we're going to stick around a little bit because Booster 7 is rolling out to the launch site. We just wrapped up predicting a bunch of things for 2023, things that will or will not happen. And in a year from now, we will look back and see how wrong we were. But we also recap the predictions from last year, and we'll have to review that in a year from now. But that does it for NSF Live. Except not really, because now it's Booster 7 rollout. We're going to stick around for a little bit, and we'll take some questions. So if you have questions about Booster 7, about Starship Ops, stuff like that, I'll keep an eye on them. We'll try to answer those as we can. But Booster 7 has just left the production site. It is headed out to the launch site to be reinstalled onto the orbital launch mount. Not sure we'd expect that install to happen today or anything, but we'll expect the booster to arrive at the launch site today, as it is now on the highway and on its way out to the launch site.
Yeah, that's sort of the tea leaves that I kind of talk about. That tomorrow's there's a road closure tomorrow that was changed from 8 a.m. It was 8 a.m., 8 p.m., and it was changed to 2 a.m., 5 p.m. So it's like, when I saw that, first thing that I thought was like, okay, so the Sunday one is gonna be for rollout Booster 7, and then they're gonna put it on the launch mount on early in that window, and then they're gonna put ship 24 later in the window.
Mhm.
So it kind of looked to me that we might see a full stack tomorrow. By this time, maybe we'll see.
That'll be exciting.
It's again, it's sort of like reading the tea leaves here, trying to guess what they're gonna do.
And just to wrap up our prediction part here, we will post a version of the predictions, like a Google survey, on the member Discord if you're Capcom or above, so you can join that and participate. And then at the end of the year, we can go all through all the member predictions as well. And look, maybe somebody gets everything right. That would be, I mean, there might be more people participating, so that would be cool. So look forward for that being posted later on the members Discord. I will make sure that gets posted.
All right, there we go. Chet says Adrian's counting how many cones get knocked down.
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet already.
Look at Chica cone counters.
Yeah. All right, let's see what other questions we got here. John Ryan asked, what is the status of Ship 25, and is the Pez dispenser welded closed now? Alex?
Wait, hold on. Is that ship 24? Ship 25?
25. Question was 25.
Yeah, so they sealed the door, and we don't know much more apart from that. Like I think it was a month and a half ago that they installed the engines on ship 25. I believe they're just waiting on Booster 7 and ship 24 to launch, and kind of leave the launch site ready for more testing for Booster 9 and ship 25. We'll see what happens. maybe in the meantime we'll see Ship 25 rolled out to suborbital Pad B, but it's a little bit weird because we also know that they have had problems with like the concrete at suborbital Pad B. Like they probably need a new solution for all that, so that when they fire all 6 engines, they don't kick up any debris and things like that. We'll see. We'll see. They might still be thinking of a solution about that, and that might be the holdup on Ship 24, Ship 25, excuse me.
I just want to point out here, because we can see it right now great in the shot, how you can see that the booster is pressurized during this transport again. You can see the host going into the QD. So they make sure, because it is more stable if it's pressurized, so you would pressurize the whole construct to give it more stability during the rollout. So it's kind of cool to see how they do that during the rollout. And I think there's like a pump or something attached to that makes sure that this stays pressurized during the whole thing.
Yeah. Do have a question in chat asking how many cones could Starship carry?
Well, that's
Many.
I feel like that's an easy thing to actually calculate, because we can just Google like traffic cone weight.
Is that easily Googleable though?
But do they fit?
7 lbs. lbs to kilogram, because I have no. Okay, it's about 3
pound.
Apparently, it's just about 3 kilograms. And what was Starship's capabilities again?
It's like supposed to be 150 tons.
Yeah. So
Does
Ish.
it fit in volume inside?
But right, that's the thing. I feel like it's a
nose
volume
cone?
constraint.
But you can stack them into each other.
Well, that's true.
Mmm.
And so in terms of about 50,000 would be the answer in terms of mass. I
still
cannot
need
believe we
cones
just
to close
answered that
roads.
question, by the way.
Oh, look at that. That's gonna be an awesome view once.
Oh,
once
that's
something
cool.
passes.
Yeah, looking down the road.
But yeah,
So
I guess
about
they're
50,000 cones from a mass perspective.
gonna need cones on Mars once they have roads there.
Oh yeah, that's a
close the
big
roads.
constraint. That's a big constraint on how
There's a
would we
Starship
even
landing from Earth. We need to close
It's
the road.
cones. Imagine just like a
Road
full
closure, the Starship is
Starship.
landing.
Oh my god,
Like
the
a
day that we
full-
have to cover road closures on Mars is the day.
That would be cool.
What was the? Oh, I was gonna say, so if a cone's about 3 kilograms, there are like CubeSats that are on the order of 3 kilograms, and from a mass perspective, Adrian said that means 50,000 of them on Starship. So imagine what a transporter mission on a Starship will look like.
The deployment will be just like okay, we will deploy now for the next 26 hours.
Yeah.
It's always funny already when Falcon 9 launches like 114 satellites and they're like, X deployment, Y deployment, you know, and like
Yeah.
they call out all of these deployments and it's like blah 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 blah, and it's like all the time
Mhm.
counting all the deployments.
They're gonna have to like take shifts on who's calling out the deployments because you'll lose your
Yeah.
voice.
God. Yeah, it's like our stakeout streams. It's like you cannot stay alive for 12 hours, man, calling.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's also an aspect that might be very cool about Starship, because a lot of educational programs, for example, struggle with budget. So being having the ability, like, we see this already on the transporter missions, because there's educational payloads flying on transporter missions, because it's a cheap way to get to space with like these small university payloads and everything. So having an ability to launch these even cheaper would give more universities, more schools, more educational programs the ability to launch payloads and educate people that are interested about space. So I think that might be like a very cool aspect of this, that because you cannot afford a small sat launch as a university that easy. It's
Right,
expensive.
of course. G. Hendricks wants us to, or wants to know when there will be cone merch. Guess we'll have to get on that. Thank you for the support there.
Yeah, another thing to cover my face, I guess.
Reminder: if you order anything from the NSF shop, it'll cover Alex's face. Just saying.
Yeah, I love that is the merch plug for today. It's like look at these
Cover
amazing
my
products.
face.
It's like you can cover Alex's face.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, so I don't know if we really, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but we'll revisit because that was now almost 2 hours ago. Elon said on Twitter that at the end of February was a possible launch attempt, but March would be better. What are our thoughts? Thanks for what you do and keep up the great work. Thank you, Will, for the kind words there. So thoughts on the like end of February/March launch target? Alex, you get to go first.
Oh boy. I've been thinking like middle to the end of spring for a while already. Like I even had a poll on Twitter like asking a few months ago whether KSP2 will release first or Starship will launch first, and it looks like KSP2 is gonna launch first. Now I did another one a few months later of instead of launch of a Starship, more like the 33 engine static fire test. So far, we're in January and we haven't seen that 33 engine static fire test, and we're approaching that release of KSP2, which is supposed to be February 24th. I hope at least we see that 33 engine static fire test before KSP2 releases. But yeah, I'm thinking spring of this year might be the earliest that I could see that launch. And Elon is kind of getting there. He's saying end of February, maybe March. So it's almost there.
Adrian, any thoughts on the Elon launch target there?
I thought it was quite realistic compared to earlier predictions where we saw what he predicted, and then you went through like the details of what has to be checked, and you were like, how? But this time, I feel like this was quite. Yeah, I would like. It doesn't feel out of this world in terms of timeline, and my opinion remains that from the 33 engine static fire, I wouldn't be surprised to see about a month from like that firing and then them getting into launch attempts. And I think with like, if you think about 33, like they're rolling out booster 7 right now, so we are definitely getting closer to that. And if you think about maybe 33 engines going like before the end of the month, you would suddenly be in a situation where end of February, early March release date, launch attempt would be realistic. Of course,
it's the date that they'll release it from the launch mount. That counts.
It's like the release clamped release date. So it's of course that means it might be the first attempt, because what we also should point out, and even Elon has pointed out on Twitter before, is this might be a beast to launch, and we saw this with SLS, how complicated things can get with these very big rockets to launch. And we saw it with Starship as well in the past, where Starship had problems igniting Raptors properly. We saw that with Starhopper a lot. So, I mean, we might be in here for like multiple attempts a week for a longer period of time. Which sounds fun from a commentator perspective if you think about it, like having a stakeout every day of 12 hours to T0 and then like, oh, Raptor aboard.
Right, that's true. Well, we will see. Yeah, I think it is the most realistic prediction that Elon has given, but I still think it's all optimistic. I'm beginning to think that we're more looking towards summer for launch. But the fact that we're getting closer is obviously a good thing, so we'll leave it at that.
I think we're probably gonna see that 33 engine static fire test next month, but that doesn't guarantee that we're gonna see a launch right away. They're gonna have to look at the data, and let's hope no issues happen like ruts or anything like that. And then there's also a lot of wet dress rehearsals. People are like, oh well, but they only have like wet dress rehearsals and static and like the 33 engine static fire test. What else do they have? And it's like, yeah, apart from figuring out fusion, nuclear fusion, what else there is to have like a clean renewable source of energy? Like, come on, it's a very complicated step. It's not like, oh yeah, they have 2 steps, nothing else happening. It's
figure it out,
steps,
launch it.
But yeah, it's very, very hard, those 2 steps. So it's not just that, yeah, they do them and then it's already done, we're launching. It's gonna take a little while, and then obviously there's also the paperwork side. They have to complete all of the environmental steps from the FONSI, mitigated FONSI, that they had in June of last year. and we don't know how long it will take. There's a lot of conspiracies everywhere. You know, the FAA is delaying SpaceX. If that were to be the case, they could just have told them, "Nah, you're not gonna be launching from here." Like they could have said many years ago, "Ha, you want to launch from here? Nope, launch
That's
from
true.
whatever." You know, but that is not the case. They're actually working actively on that launch license. They're working through the environmental stuff. They're obviously, you know, slow because it's the government. Let's be honest. But yeah, they're doing it. They're gonna be there. I do feel like we might be waiting a little bit once all of these testing is complete, though, just because of other launch companies also waiting on FA and similar. Just saying, Virgin Orbit on UK side, and AVL also waiting. Astra also waited as well. I believe Firefly as well. So if a SpaceX waits, don't think it's because the FAA has anything with SpaceX. It's just how the government works.
That's standard operations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to bring in some more questions here. Stefan, well, actually, I should mention you can see boosters progressing down the highway, heading back towards the launch site, and making it way at a pretty good, comfortable pace there, which is good.
I have flashbacks from the Booster 9 rollout right now that I hope there's not a barricade in the way, because there was a stream where I think Alex, Daz, and me were on here, and they decided to roll out Booster 9, and we were like, yeah, we will cover that. That will go quick.
Yeah.
And then Booster 9 halted in front of a barrier for more than an hour.
Oops.
Yeah, it was like, and there was one barrier, and I think we said on air, like, that barrier is halting humanity's progress to Mars.
Well, we hope that doesn't happen then. Hopefully they learn to make sure the barriers are out of the way first. Got a question here from Stefan saying, is there a possibility that they do not static fire the 33 engines before launch?
Based on, I think, the documentation by NASA, I think that's the plan, right? We know outright that the plan is to perform that test. So
That's the plan.
I mean,
But is that gonna happen?
Answer, possibility, yes, because there's like no point, like there's no reason why they have to. Do they? Most likely want to, because destroying all your launch equipment during a launch because you didn't static fire properly would be bad. Yes, so technically they could skip it. There's not like a technical limitation to it.
Right.
But they will most likely fire 33 engines.
I don't think there's a significant possibility of that. I think extremely likely that the 33 engine static fire goes on before the launch. Alex, what do you think?
I think the same. Oh, there we go.
Alex thinks Falcon Heavy Unisex hoodie order.
Hey,
get yours now
this
on
one.
the shop. Okay, it's what you're wearing.
See, when the merch actually fits what I'm wearing, I don't mind having this thing.
Let's see here, and then we got a new Capcom member as well. Andrew, thanks for joining on the Capcom YouTube membership program. Hope you enjoy your perks. We greatly appreciate the support.
I just saw a question here just recently from Charlie Cushin saying, could they static fire them in groups instead of all at once? And that's something that I've seen a lot. And one thing that I usually say is, you cannot cheat, you know, rocket engineering and rocketry in general. If you do them in groups, you're not doing a 33 engine static fire test.
Right.
And I'm sorry, you need to fire them. Well, I mean, you might stagger the start, but if you don't have them all firing at once at some point in the static fire, you're not doing a 33 engine static fire test, man.
Like,
sorry.
That
Okay.
tests
That's
all of
cheating.
those engines on their own. It tests that the engine itself is working within the booster system and stuff like that. Like, it tests some things. And
Exactly.
they're kind of working their up that way. But you can't split them into a bunch of different static fires and get all of the data you would get from a 33 engine static fire, because that is all of them firing at once could have different performance characteristics. And well, actually, you'd expect it to be different. So...
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you test some components not that to their limit. For example,
Right.
the thrust section itself needs to be able to withstand the thrust of all engines.
Yeah.
So you would probably want to validate that before, and you cannot do that by like multiple tests because you never would reach that thrust. Yes, you would have validated all of the Raptor's work, but you would never validate the design limits of your tank section. So yeah, there's some things that do not work if you just fire them one by one.
One thing is staggered start, which we've seen them already do that. So it's most likely that that's going to happen for a 33 engine static fire test. But if they actually do a 33 engine static fire test, for us to count that as a 33 engine static fire test, at some point in the test, all 33 have to be ignited
Firing at
once.
the same time.
So, like,
yeah.
Yeah, they have to be firing at the same time.
Right.
Otherwise, it doesn't count.
Yeah. So stagger start is, I mean, we'd almost expect a stagger start even on the launch. I don't think we're expecting.
Yeah.
I think just like they do on Falcon 9, they even do this where they stagger by, a few milliseconds. I would
And
imagine.
Falcon Heavy as well.
Falcon Heavy, yep. Yep, there you go. So, yeah, good question, though. On that front, I'm just going to ask, what do we think the other pre-flight milestones remaining that we're going to see are? We expecting, obviously, stacking, but are we expecting any separate ops between the ship and the booster? Test on their own first? Are we expecting, and then what kind of full stack testing before launch?
I wouldn't be surprised if the path to orbit from this point would be to stack it and then start to do like multiple tanking and high load tests before you even get to the 33 engines, maybe. Like,
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised to see like loads of, we will fill like this tank full, both tanks full, all tanks full, and just go through the paces with this full stack once again, make sure everything works, then perform a static fire, and then you're good to go. Like and also there might be smaller things like flap testing, grid fin testing. There's a lot of things that will move, and yeah, I think it will be a lot of smaller tanking tests that then lead to the 33 and then lead to launch.
All right. Alex, what do you think?
I think we might see several wet dress rehearsals in various ways. Well, that's again also cheating, I guess. And I kind of talked about this in a previous stream. As Adrian said, we're probably gonna see like different tanks being loaded differently and all of that. We've already seen that. But I wonder when they're actually gonna do like all tanks all full and like following the countdown sequence. They probably gonna need a few tries at that. Just because you want to get things down very well. Sort of the same mentality that we had for Artemis 1. Well, not the same in the same literal sense, because NASA didn't end up doing a full tanking test. They did eventually, but not when they were trying to launch for the first time. I do believe SpaceX is probably going to be doing a few tanking tests of a Starship, like proper tanking tests, actually simulating a countdown. That's my thinking, though. Whether we're going to see that or not, see. I do expect some retries, like, maybe they do one week, and then we see them destacking or something, working on the vehicles, and then they come back and restack again. They do another wet dress rehearsal because they change some process or whatever. You never know. We're definitely in the home stretch, though. I do think we're like right there where there's like things that are like the 33 NG static fire test and more loading tests and things like that, but I do not expect any other big major tests that is not that.
Can I sneak in a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Will there be any anomaly? Like not, I'm not even talking about the booster goes up in flames, but like one engine decides to just die. And like, will they have a flawless path to orbit from here on out? Or like to attempt? So. Or will there be repeats of static fires?
Well, that's the thing. We don't even know, like, because we don't really know for sure how many engines they plan to static fire on any given test until after the fact.
Yeah,
well, actually, we don't even know. We only know how many they fired. Like, when the 14 engine fire happened, we don't know if that was the planned 14 or if it was more than that and only 14 fired or whatever, or they descoped or whatever. So will we even, like, if they have an engine shut down, like an engine aborts during a static fire, would we even know?
Okay, let's word differently. Will there be major hardware replacements, like a Raptor?
Okay.
You all are thinking of the vehicles. I'm thinking of the tank farm. I'm thinking they're gonna break
No.
some pump.
Oh, yeah,
they're
for
gonna be
sure.
replacing pumps all the way till the day of the launch. But not joking. I mean, I'm joking, but also not joking here, because we've seen that they have done tests of boosters and ships and things like that, and then they have come back a few days later and have replaced pumps and hi more merch here. Yeah, so I'm more thinking of the tank farm for some reason, but I mean, it's also true that when they did those tests, those loading tests with a full stack a couple of months ago, we didn't see any major change outs of hardware at the tank farm. So maybe it's actually working properly now, but you never know, right? It's a little bit icky there with whether it's actually working for good or maybe something happens.
Yeah. Adrian's gonna go AFK for a second. We'll get Adrian back in a little bit, no worries. But let's see here. What else do we
Yeah, I was
have?
about to say it's already 11 p.m. here.
Yeah,
You
the
have
European
dinner.
folks are staying up real late. It's only early evening here in the States, but thanks for staying on for this rollout here, Alex.
It's always a pleasure. I always have a lot of fun, and now we have actually face cams with the merch
Yeah.
sometimes coming here and covering my face.
All right, I'm gonna bring in some more questions though. Casper asked, "Do we have any updates regarding Starship as the moon lander for Artemis?" I think they're kind of waiting for the first orbital flight, right? Like that's a big step towards HLS development.
Yeah, well, we might see an actual test flight of like a prototype of that in maybe this year, maybe next year. With Ship 26, we know it doesn't have tiles, it doesn't have flaps or anything like that. It doesn't even have a payload bay. Like it doesn't have a dispenser, it doesn't have a door. It's not that they install a dispenser and a door and then they close the door or something like that, like they did with Ship 24 and Ship 25. No. It doesn't even have a dispenser. It's just like an empty bay, right? It doesn't have a door. So it might be for HLS related tests.
Sure.
It doesn't really need to be, like two ships docking together in orbit and things like that. It might be just, on orbit propellant management tests, for example. And we see there the hydraulic power units. Those are going away on Booster 9, by the way. We have the Booster 9 rollout where I explain all of these differences, and I said that these things are not present on Booster 9, and then we can see there the black discs there. Those are the Starlink antennas to communicate with the Starlinks, and those are now on the top of the chines. So you'll see if you go back to that rollout stream, Booster 9 on the chines, they have those antennas there up there on the chines.
Gotcha.
Because those boxes are not there anymore, so
Right.
obviously where do you put them?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think we're pretty excited about HLS progress. That's going to be one of the most exciting applications of Starship when there's people on it and landing on the moon, landing on Mars later too, obviously, and it's very exciting. But
let's be real, Artemis 3 will be probably the most exciting spaceflight mission we all have ever witnessed.
Yeah, right.
So far, at least.
So far.
There are more later.
Yeah, but like none of us were even close to be alive when there was the last moon mission. So being able to witness a person on the moon probably is like I cannot imagine even. This is all part of such a big thing, and I'm like,
I feel like we're gonna make some people in chat feel old, but it's true for the three of us at least.
Yeah, not even close.
I wasn't even alive when Hubble went to space. So it's like.
Ah, jeez.
I'm 27. I think I'm the oldest here, so.
I'm the same age of the ISS. That's what I go with.
I'm trying to think of an important mission in my year, but I'm blanking right now. I do know that there was a shuttle launch, like within 2 weeks of my birth, but that's it.
Anyway, moving on.
Shuttle. There you go.
Shuttle. There we go. Oh yeah, check it off the bingo card if we hadn't done that already. There's that negative z-axis we were talking about earlier. Another thing, the other time you see that come up is for Falcon Heavy, because they call it the PY and MY boosters.
Oh, yeah.
That's the positive Y, plus Y and minus Y.
Trivia for you,
axes on
Thomas.
the
Do you know
boosters.
which one is which? Which one is the PY and
Hold on, I can think of it. Because, oh no. I mean, I've got a 50-50 chance of guessing.
Huh.
I'm gonna guess.
PY is the one that looks to the beach, and the MY.
Why would I was gonna
is the one
guess?
to the tower.
Yeah, that's
We're
what
a
I'm-
rollout stream for Starship. I was just joking with you. Come on.
Well, that's what I was gonna
Either
guess, so
way.
I got it right. You can't prove me wrong.
Damn it.
Oh man. So, but good look at Raptor 42 there. That's nice. Nicely done.
Look at that.
Very
98.
important raptor.
Well, there's-
You two like 42, and I'm like 98 and 28. So there's like a really big gap between the numbers
They're
here.
dent in 28.
Don't
Below
say
that
that.
too?
Don't.
There could just be
Don't-
decoloration of things. I mean, a lot of these
Exactly.
engines have been fired.
Let's-
Well, they've
let's
all been
not.
fired somewhere.
If they have to change another engine, oh man, those shields don't look easy to install. They
It
have
looks
to
like a
remove that
dent.
engine.
Where do you see it? I don't see it then.
Another 2.
I mean,
Unless
there could
that,
just be
like-
like a mark from anything there. I can't really
Okay.
see. I'm not gonna
Okay.
claim there's a dent. I'm not gonna be that guy.
Okay. I'm gonna be that guy.
All right, we got another question here. Justin says, could there be multiple 33 engine static fires? I wonder if the concrete will be a constraint on that. And they're like, listen, we can only resurface this so many times. You can do one once, and if it looks good enough, you got to just launch the next time because we can't keep doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still have the worry that the water they're spraying on during the de-static fires is not cutting it. And I mean that it feels so interesting to see all of the other launch pads in the world deploying such huge
See?
amount of water, and then you have like the spray and Boca Chica like, yeah, that's fine.
Now Chad is entire fail of people saying it's a dent, it's a dent. See what I told you?
I'm sorry.
Don't say dent. I'm just joking. Don't worry, Chad. I'm not really that bad of a person.
But yeah,
there's the QD connection.
yeah.
Oh,
Also,
Haha.
I think we
Hi,
know
Jack.
those two
Hi, Nick.
people.
Hi, Jack.
You know it's Jack because he's wearing orange.
Yeah.
You can say they have hijacked.
Is that
Wow.
is that our friend Cooper? And I saw Nick in the back. I think it's Cooper.
Yeah, that's.
Are we
Cooper.
seeing a making off here?
Is it? We're behind. How meta can we get? That was
Is this
fantastic.
some behind the scenes of like a video or something?
Hello. That was great.
Oh, that was fantastic. We got another super chat that came in here. Alexander said, random, but the first UK rocket launch tomorrow. And I saw another chat message just saying, imagine predicting last year that the first launch from the UK would happen before the first Starship flight.
That's yeah.
In before Chris goes in the chat and says it's just a plane taking off.
Yeah, yeah. There's debate. Does it count because the plane takes off, but the launch is from the over the ocean?
It's just a plane taking
I
off.
think it counts, but I understand. The first vertical
Yeah,
launch
there you
from
go.
the ground of the UK will be a different milestone.
Say it on chat.
Also going to be interesting which one that will be.
Right, yeah. A couple of different options.
Yeah.
Alright, can we
Actually,
get...
gladly
Do we have a
donut
camera
pretty-
view that gives us a statistic of, like, what the... do we have a progress bar view?
Oh, yeah.
Of, there we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Alright, that angle is not super fair because it has to, like, come forward a bit from that angle, too, but you can see it's gradually working its way to the launch site.
Like these old Windows installation that were just when you installed a game on like Windows 2000 and it was stuck on like 80% for like
Yeah.
1 hour and then suddenly advance to 100. It's not a linear bar.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. Let's see what other. Let's see, Chad. If you got more questions, as you always, tag us with @NASASpaceflight. But Booster 7 making its way back to the launch site and making good progress. I don't see any barriers in the way like Booster 9.
Yes. No cones as well that get knocked over. Like, it's free path to Mars.
Here's a good question.
Well, let's hope they don't knock over our camera. They came very close once.
Yeah.
Oh, hold up. I'm just noticing. The QD arm is extended. It's all the way down.
Oh, so like moved
Yeah.
away from the launch mount.
Yep. It's I mean, how do you call that? Like it's swung
It's
out,
retracted.
right?
It's retracted.
But does it retract like this or?
Or
It rotates.
no, yeah,
away. Rotated away. It's rotated.
rotate.
Away.
Okay, sure. Pretty sure retract is also fair, but we get what you mean. I think.
The question also is, how long will this take until they lift? Like what?
Yeah,
what is their
I mean,
next
we were saying there
steps?
might be a window for them to lift tomorrow, and so the rollout today, lift tomorrow, right?
Yeah, like somewhere in there.
Now people are talking about that in the chat, like tucked away, go sideways, straight away. Open.
Stowed.
Swung
Stowed's an
out.
option.
Yeah,
It's
what's,
like when
what's
you're-
the verb for this? I'm the dumb Spaniard that doesn't know English.
Yeah, that's also the situation you have on NSF if you mention a camera movement and do not clarify if it's a pan or like a
Tilt.
Yeah, a tilt, and some of our camera people will clarify which axis it was.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, we had another question here from Donna. It says, when SpaceX stacks Ship 24 and Booster 7, will the next time they separate be in flight? So basically saying, is the next full stack the last time before launch, or do they destack for any testing after full stack testing?
I'm gonna say it's the last time. In hope they fly, like. But
I think-
the last intended stacking.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a D-stack again.
Because
Have
the
we
problem
seen
is they
them-
could do a full stack for what's it called? For like a wet dress
Loading
rehearsal or
test.
something, but then they could want to remove the ship for the 33 engine static fire or something like that. Like, that's feasible, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking here. Also, have we seen them actually like readying Ship 24 for flight without the crane,
The lift points
lifting
stuff.
points and everything? Yeah, right. That's what we will expect them to do when it's like it's gonna go up, and that's it. It's not coming down. It's gonna be separated all in flight or via explosion.
That's
or
true.
something.
They need to
so
maybe
we'll
they
see.
need to unstack it again after they have to replace like 40 tiles after the first tanking test.
No.
I mean, just
But yeah.
saying.
Anyway, so I hope we answered your question there, Donna. There, Paul also with a bit of a super chat support. So Paul, thank you so much for that support as well. All right.
7 passing booster 9 in the background.
Yeah,
Total eclipse of the booster, I guess.
I think that's
Booster
what this
eclipse.
counts as.
It's the old one and then the new one behind, but the new one doesn't have any engines, doesn't have a lot of
Mhm.
the things that will make it for flight. That's why it's
this-
the next one.
Is this the only time a rocket gets slower with the addition of engines because it gets more weight, so it's slower in the SPMT? So it's the only time a rocket gets slower with engines.
I mean, well, okay. When you, by adding engines, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Although, okay, when they roll out a Falcon 9 without the payload on it for a static fire, and then they like add the payload on it, which has thrusters on it, those count as engines. Like,
Damn it, yeah, you're
get
right.
slower there. I don't know. It's still a rollout. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah. I've just found it funny. As a coincidence.
Oh, when you switch from a single engine Centaur to a dual engine Centaur, the liftoff becomes slightly slower. So there you go.
Hey, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that.
If
I
you're
like that.
if you're adding engines on not the first stage, the first stage will be
Yeah.
slower.
Yeah, also Starship will probably have that once they go from 6 to 9 engines on
Yeah.
Starship. So it
Speaking
will
of
be
Falcon
slower.
rollout, how is Falcon Heavy doing? Because we have a launch in like 4 days, and the rocket is in the hangar, and
Still
hasn't
in the
even
hangar?
done the static fire test yet.
Let's do a quick Space Coast live check. Yeah, that hangar door isn't
Yeah.
even open.
Hmm. Well,
Hmm.
we'll see what happens. I was like actually looking at Space Coast Live to see.
chopsticks moved.
Are they?
Yeah, I just rewinded on
There we go.
cams.
I
I
have the
rewinded
VAD
on
right
some
now here.
cams like 10 minutes, and it looks like they went off a bit.
It's
So it
removing
looks
the
like-
chopsticks potentially. Could be a preparation for booster arrival, of course.
Speaking of chopsticks, if you are also looking at Space Coast Live,
Mm-hmm.
chopstick hardware arrived this week to 39A.
Yeah, they rolled out the carriage system. That's the first step
Yep.
in assembling the chopsticks out at the
Put
pad
them
of
on
39A.
the frame thing.
Yeah, can you point out on this view, can you point out what the carriage system looks like?
Yeah, so if you see the tower, the chopsticks and the tower, it's not like the chopsticks are like hovering on the tower or something. They have to be connected to something. And then that something connects to the tower. Basically, that something links both things. That's the carriage system. And you can see like 2 bars, like on the chopsticks. You can see 1 bar like here and the other one. There we go. Where it says Alejandro, right? Like a little bit to the left. Ah, come on, Michael. Don't change companies. He's doing that on purpose. I know that. So yeah, that's the thing that grabs onto the tower from one side, and from the other side, it holds the chopsticks, and so the chopsticks can move and everything. And then the carriage system is on rails on the tower, and the rails basically like it has a pulley system. You can see the cables running down the front of the tower, and those pull up and down that carriage system,
I think
which
they're
goes
going up,
on-
right?
on rails. Are they going up?
Yeah, I think they're going up. I'm not
Yeah,
seeing
very
things,
slowly.
right? They're
Yeah.
going up.
I
And
think-
also,
I think they're
just
going
to
up, yep.
just to relay that, about an hour ago, people from us that were close to that heard a PA announcement that said that they cleared the orbital pad deck for launch mechanism movement. So, yeah, chopsticks going up. Let's go.
I guess that's a hint that they're gonna stack this thing.
Yeah.
At least the booster. But, you know, Ship 24 was also removed from suborbital pad B. So, man.
Before that, take like a 12-hour break, SpaceX, just to be sure. Like,
Yeah, let us
Please.
rest, please. I mean, that's what I'm thinking here, that they're preparing everything, and then on the road closure at 2 a.m., they're gonna go ahead and, you know, stack everything. That's my
it's
thinking.
in
at
10
least.
hours from now.
Thankfully, right? We're not gonna be live in 10 hours, you know, like continuously until then. We might be live. We'll see.
He says
Oh,
with
yeah.
confidence.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I will be awake, but we'll see.
Oh, it's
always
coming right
awake.
for us.
Don't sleep.
This is a pretty cool view. I like this view.
Okay, they're shouting at me on the back channels that we're technically live because
We
SBL
will be
still
like,
is
because
live.
Starbase Live is always live.
I was talking like commentary, face or not, I don't care, but like commentary, we'll see. Maybe we'll do a Raptor side chat if not. It's been a long time since the last one.
Let's see here. I'm going to bring some more questions here. Gustavo says, will we ever see a full stack static fire before launch? So that ties in the different possibilities of destacking for a 33 engine static fire or keeping the ship on. Do we have any thoughts on one or the other?
No hard thoughts, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially in even like in later stages of this vehicle. Like, I think there will be times where you will see integrated, like for second stage static fire, for sure. Here comes the caravan.
I'm thinking the same. That well, I'm thinking that we might see one, but you never know. It's likely that it just be like we're just gonna be doing one and done. But if it doesn't go right, then they'll probably repeat it or do some sub-test or something. You never know. That's my answer.
Yeah.
Be
it's
open
hard
to many things.
The problem is, no matter what the plans are, the plans can
Ooh.
change.
Look at
There we
that.
go. Chopsticks.
Oh yeah, there
Ah,
you go.
You can see there what I said before. The Starlinks.
Oh yep, on top of the
chines.
chines. Nice.
There's that.
All right. More questions. All right. This one might require some research. I'm going to open this up. Eliza wants to know what's faster, SPMT rolling out a Starship or SLS rollout on the crawler.
I'm with very high confidence sure that the SPMTs are significantly faster. I
By
think we
significantly
answered that
faster, you mean
question.
like a couple miles per hour.
Yeah, but like in terms of percentage, they are
Yeah.
significantly faster. I think we researched that before, and it's quite a big difference in terms of speed. My God, that's the word. In terms of peace.
Yeah.
There you go. Also got a couple bit of super chat support and things like that. Michael gifted a 5 red team membership, so Michael, thank you for that support. Brian became a Capcom member, so we appreciate that. Let's see, Roger for the Get the Broadcast Team a Telestrator fund. I know Michael has a Telestrator, hasn't used it this stream, but don't give him ideas, he'll do it. The producers do have the Telestrator, we appreciate that.
He knows what the carriage system is. He could have just
That's true.
drawn something. He
Oh
didn't
my
help.
goodness. And Dean says, commentary live for 10 plus hours fund. Please no. Listen, we all signed up for an NSF live episode. We're already here an extra hour.
Yeah, we're already
And
like.
We're
Probably-
staying live for rollout. Let's just call it there, okay? Oh my goodness. Those,
There's a China article that at some point needs to be written.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Let's see.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
gonna-
approaching. Try to spot the NSF truck while it drives past in the back.
Yeah, I think it's in the behind the convoy from
Yeah.
our perspective here. Also got one of the tracking dishes back there. I thought I was gonna call it out earlier, but it doesn't seem to be moving. One of the tracking dishes wasn't perfectly vertical or anything. I wonder if it was tracking something, but it's been in the same position the whole time, so I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure even why it is doing that, because we usually see them in like a idle position,
Right.
going like right top. So it's probably doing like something, but I do not think it's related to anything that is happening here right now. It's maybe they're doing like some other tracking with that dish, or like some sort of communication with that dish, or even like just a test.
Yeah, they could be. I mean, yeah, plenty of explanations there.
Yeah.
I've got another question for you here, Adrian. Gustavo wants to ask, how many Starship orbital flights will we have in 2023?
So I burnt myself pretty hard with answering this question last year, and especially Michael made sure to remember me how much I predicted.
I believe it was 3.
No, it was 5.
5! Yikes.
Yeah. And how much? Do you want to go first?
Well, okay. The first flight happens in May. April, May.
From there on, it's
timeframe.
monthly, right? Oh. I'm gonna say 3.
You know what? I'll say 3 as well, because there were
Yeah.
also 3 high altitude Starship flights in a sequence at one point. I know that there was more than that eventually, but yeah, I'm gonna go 3. 3 seems the magic number. The thrust is 3.
Yeah. So 3.
So 3 orbital Starship flights in 2023. Next
Fits, right?
question. What?
Oh no. It fits.
The next question is, how many before Artemis 3?
Oh, so Artemis. Oh, then first let's start with the easier one. When will Artemis 3 actually fly? Because we
I
kind of need to
think-
establish that, right?
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be 26. It's not gonna.
Have
be
you got
26.
roasted already because of saying 5 launches in 2022?
Hey Alex,
Yes.
if you're talking, you gotta get the camera back on. No cheating.
Hold on, I'm
Uh,
writing something right now.
All right, hold on. But Starship. Oh man. All right, Artemis. All right, so let's say Artemis 2 happens 2025. I'm gonna give it 1 year of pessimism
Yeah.
there. So then
Which would
Artemis
make-
3 and 28.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say 2028. So that would give Starship like 5 years of cadence.
Yeah, and keep in mind that has to include like all the on-orbit propellant transfer demos they have to do for HLS.
And like even like every
Oh.
demo and everything is probably like 20 launches, 30 launches. Like
Well,
and that's
no, it's
only
only
like
like
yeah, but also demo, tanking, like everything included. Like that's a lot of launches, right?
I'm
thinking
gonna.
Artemis 3,
It's gonna be like
2028,
tens of
2029.
launches. It won't. It will be less than 100 launches.
I'm gonna actually say. No, I'm gonna say 80 is like.
Okay, I'm
I
gonna
feel
ask
like
you something
80.
different.
Okay.
What do you think is gonna be? What do you think is gonna be the ramp up of launches for Starship? Like, Falcon 9 took a long time to actually get to even 10 launches,
Right.
like in a year. Like, how do you see that for Starship? Like, when is gonna be the first year they're gonna do 10 launches in a single year for Starship?
Oh
Mhm.
man.
That's another question where you first have to ask, like, are the payloads even there? Like,
Well, it's
Just
Starlink.
launches,
SpaceX
in
can,
general.
but that's the thing. SpaceX can create payloads by doing on-orbit refueling demos and by launching Starlink. So I'm not
Yeah,
worried about
exactly.
payload demand. All right, I'm gonna say first year with 10 or more orbital Starship launches will be 2020.
I'm gonna say 2024.
No, 2026.
I'm optimistic. I'm gonna say
A
2024.
more closer prediction: will they hit our camera or will they not?
Oh,
I don't
God.
think so. I think we'll be fine. Camera's
We should
safe.
probably we should probably talk about this for a bit because it's about to pass the camera.
It's such a cool view, though. I also love the view of just the,
Yeah.
the person like walking in front of it too. There's some awesome
Yeah,
shots. I'm sure
yeah.
all of this footage will make it into a video on the channel in the next day or so.
It also gives you a
No,
sense
it's just
of
gonna be
like
the live
these,
stream. Oh, come on.
these SPMTs are big. Like even
Yeah.
the SPMTs are not small, and
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
This is
okay,
big.
that was brutal with the SLS with 10 flight a year. Oh wait.
We're getting run over by SPMTs and Booster 7.
But here comes the caravan. So we will probably see our folks soon again.
Yep.
If the signal goes out, you know
In
that's the
fact,
problem.
if this guy moves to the right a little bit, hey, there's Jack.
Oh yeah, you can see Jack on the roof.
Listen, do whatever
Oh.
you need for the shot. That's how that works. That's cool.
I love how this
Meteoric
became a
shitty.
spot the crew.
And there you see, there's a good progress bar shot.
Yeah, we are almost there. But it's this is exciting. I love that we have a booster with engines back again
See,
at the
people are
launch
now
site.
seeing dance everywhere.
It's all Adrian's fault.
Yeah. shh.
I mean, it's
the
it would not be the first time we see a dent in a Raptor. I'm just saying.
you didn't give an answer, any of you two. When is the Starship gonna reach 10 launches in a year? Like, what year will that be?
Oh, I said 2024.
Oh, 2024. Okay, so
Yeah,
next year.
2026.
2026. Gonna go, yeah, 2025, 2026. Either one of those 2 years are probably gonna be the first time they do 10 launches in a year.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll all look like idiots in a couple
That's
of
a
years,
long-
but
That's a longer time prediction. That's it's certainly not
I mean-
for next year, but we'll see.
right.
I mean, to be fair, we will look like idiots next year when another crew of us is reviewing this footage and is telling
haven't
telling
launched
everybody about
anything.
our prediction.
And Starship
Yeah.
still hasn't launched. Oh God, don't say
Yeah.
that.
God.
Please don't
I mean,
say that.
there's always that possibility that they don't launch anything this year, but we have to be hopeful, right? It's gotta be this year. Like one way or another. Please, this year, be it. Launch, send it.
Like, if Starship and Vulcan doesn't launch this year, most of the predictions are screwed.
Someone saying, Alex, pick just 1 year. Come on.
Yeah, Alex is the master of prediction wiggle room. You need to pay attention to this.
Yeah,
and that's also
hedging.
the reason Michael has like clear answers and almost
There's
every
sometimes that I
prediction.
actually have clear answers when things are like very, very clear. Like Artemis 2, I see it in 2025. I don't see it next year.
Right.
That's it. Like I have it very clear that it's gonna be 2025, not 2024. But now you ask me this, and launches for Starship, and I'm like, well, maybe 2025, 2026, between 2 years. At
Oh,
least
wow.
I say only 2 years.
Hey,
Hi, Jack.
there's Jack.
Hi, Jack. I love. But why am I waving?
I don't know.
So if he can
I'm gonna
see
watch
you.
this live stream at
It's
some
not
point,
like
I guess.
it's not like there's a screen where you can see all like, oh, there's Adrian.
Hey,
think
for
I recognize
once, at
some of
least
the
we
other
can
folks around
actually
there, too.
wave to the camera.
I think that's Ryan from Cosmic Perspective on the far right.
Yeah, I can recognize.
I can't recognize
those.
everybody, but I think
Yeah.
I recognize Ryan too. Shout
Let's
out to
hope
all
we-
of those down in Starbase covering this kind of stuff.
Let's just hope we do not see a situation right now where Jack starts to like fall into the flatbed of the truck suddenly.
be
because-
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh,
And now live robotic camera operations. There we go.
and you can see our secrets. Ooh,
Cables.
cables.
Also,
and
the
antennas.
chopsticks are halfway up.
Yeah. Okay.
Sort of what we expect to see here with the chopsticks.
Yeah, they are in lift situation. Like I think if they now open and start to like be like, come here, Booster 7, I give you a hug.
Let me see what else we got. Oh, go ahead.
Jack cam is another way of having a horse cam, I guess. Someone saying, "Oh, you all went from horse cam to Jack cam." Yep.
I love.
I've got
I always
some,
thought this
oh, go
this
ahead.
was like deep water, but it's not deep water, right? It's just
No,
like
it's not.
I think we called it the camera reflection pond earlier in the stream.
Yeah.
Also, the
Just enough water
mosquito birth pond,
Yeah.
like that's the house of countless mosquitoes. I believe there are a lot of war stories from our folks down there by Nick, Jack,
True.
and company. So yeah, that pond
Very,
is
very
very
true.
dangerous if you don't like mosquitoes.
I'm going to bring you some more questions here. We've got a couple super chat questions. James says, not necessarily a 2023 prediction, as it's more of a future one, but what are our predictions on Suzy, Mad V, and Lockheed's lunar lander happening? So let's start with Suzy. That is the like reusable spacecraft for Ariane 6, the European vehicle. Don't think it ever happens.
If it happens, not in the 2020s, because timelines and European projects go great hand to hand.
Yeah, I'm with Adrian on that one.
It's just, yeah, based on Ariane 6 schedule performance and then also just like the priorities of Arianespace and the European companies doesn't seem to be, it's not going to be a high priority enough to happen in the near term.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Priorities can always change, so we can be optimistic, but that's my current prediction.
It feels at this point just that ESA is very confident in the spot where they're like join as a major partner to kind of every NASA major mission, and they're like, oh, and also ESA is a major partner for this.
Hey,
And,
more cones. They can
oh,
knock
no.
down.
But yeah, we see an arrival here. That's cool though.
Yeah, turning
Also
it's making the
Starhopper.
final turn before the gate.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, we've got a. So the next part of this question, Mad V, which is the Lockheed's Mars lander. Any chance that happens?
I'm gonna ask the other question. Like I always with these missions, I'm interested like who wants it and buys it.
Right.
And if nobody,
Like-
I'm gonna actually say Mad V never happens.
I think the only customer is NASA or some international conglomerate that includes NASA and ESA and everything. And the fact is Starship will be ready first, so I think similar to Artemis human landing system development, they will maybe want a second one, but the first one will be Starship, and then if a second one happens, it probably won't. The odds are it will be something other than Madby. So
Also, once Starship gets to Mars, that changes a lot of the dynamics about Mars, like about these landers, because you're suddenly in a situation where, like, okay, I can put a giant Starship on Mars, so I can design a vehicle that doesn't need to compromise for heat shielding, that doesn't need to compromise for any deployment. So that changes a lot of the way these vehicles are thought about right now, and suddenly opens a lot of possibilities. So that's, I feel like there's also there's every time we talk about interplanetary missions, and especially Mars missions, there's this pre-Starship world, and there's also the post-Starship world.
Yeah.
Or like the Starship world.
which is speculative.
And,
Starship hasn't even
yeah.
gone to orbit yet. Like, we're assuming the potential capabilities come true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you will say we are in a BS before Starship world?
Yeah, kinda. It's it will change a lot of dynamics. It's like with lunar landings, with LEO capabilities. I would argue that LEO is kind of the orbit where it has the least impact compared to the others. It has a big impact, but it has an even bigger impact on like interplanetary and
Sure.
like moon. So yeah.
All right, and the last part of this, Lockheed's a lunar lander. So now we're talking about like which landers will be on-ramped for a second Artemis lander in addition to Starship's HLS. Lockheed has a bid. Are they still part of the national team bid?
Lockheed Martin, the national team, I think they are.
Yes, they are. They're still on the Blue Origin team. I just checked.
Yeah.
Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, Draper.
So I don't know if that's what they're
Boeing.
talking
Yeah, the
about.
one
or
that
if
went
that's
out
something
was
different.
Northrop Grumman.
Yeah, Northrop Grumman left and is now doing a separate bid.
Lockheed once had like their own kind of lander.
I'm sure they
design.
did.
Yeah, way back then. I remember one of the videos that they had promoting it. They had like one of the old Apollo astronauts leaning back on the moon again. It was like, why? Like there was like this astronaut suit, and it had like the name of an Apollo astronaut, but it was on their lander. It's like, that's weird.
By the way, for the record, Binsu will talk about. I think the national team lander, the SLD national team lander, will be the second option. Will be picked
think?
because it feels like, yeah, it feels very, like very politically aimed to get support.
Right.
With the whole 50 states thing and everything, like it feels very well placed in a situation where you would expect funding. So I think that will be funded as a like the. I think the B option is that the B, or like the second contract.
Yeah,
I should
it's
say, though,
yeah, Appendix B, I think.
It's my favorite, but not because any of that, not because it has like many contractors in many states. That is good. Like that is something that appeals to Congress, but not NASA.
Right.
Like maybe NASA in some sense, like I know in the source selection statement, one of the conditions or one of the things that they look at is that they have many contractors and things like that. Like they nurture the commercial space sector and things like that. But it's not a hard requirement. It's something that it's good to have, but it's not the primary thing that they're going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at the other stuff, which are the technical requirements and all that. We know that.
And like we don't know much about the design of this new bid because
Yeah.
I mean Northrop Grumman had a huge part in the previous one, so clearly the design has changed.
Yeah, and they left the previous round. They were a little bit scolded there because, you know, things like not being able to land in darkness. That's a big deal when you're landing on the south pole of the moon. So,
Sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
but the chopsticks are going into hook position. So and that's the official term. I think they're opening, if I see that correctly.
Yep.
They are opening for receiving a booster. You can see them like being more. They're not longer aligned in parallels. So yeah, More progress on potential lifting operations. Oh, let's just say lifting operations, because there's no doubt about them lifting this in the next few hours, a day-ish. Like, the question is only when, but this booster will be lifted until the orbital launch mount.
Yeah. Got another question here from Dave saying, I'm sure this has already been asked, but have we heard anything about a launch license for the orbital flight? I don't think so, but we also, that's one we don't really expect status updates until it's actually awarded, like granted, right?
Yeah.
It'll just be posted.
Some people are like, oh, well, maybe they have it already and they're not saying. Once they have the launch license, they're going to be posting that. Like, they're going to be like, hey, we have the launch license. Because that's a big deal. That's a big thing. And I think it's actually one of the requirements of the FAA, because they are a public, like, government agency,
right, of
posting that as soon as they have it.
Yeah, but not until it's granted, which could be
exactly.
Like the day before launch or the day of launch,
Exactly.
in theory.
Like, one of the things that we already kind of already imply for this is that they're preparing it. While they're preparing it, it's not out, it's not public, it's not something that they talk about too much. But once it is granted, SpaceX will probably tweet about that. I think it's a big deal that, hey, we have it, we're already going forward with this. And the FAA will probably even tweet it as well. We saw that for the hops and things like that they tweeted that, Starship is gonna fly and we granted license and things like that. So that's something that we could see happening.
It also depend on some things the FAA, for example, wants to see. Like, they could always... I'm not talking about, hey, they want to see a static fire. But maybe they want to see, like, some clarification on some certain procedures, on, like, how SpaceX plans, for example, to terminate the vehicle or certain things. There could be things where they're like, hey, could you demonstrate that this software is powered on during a static fire? Or could you demonstrate how the software would interact during a wet dress rehearsal? Like, because a lot of this license is also tied to protection and protecting airspace and human lives. So them wanting to know, for example, how our termination of the flight would work and how the software is integrated might be part of this that SpaceX just has to demonstrate to them.
The hazard zones and things like that.
So there could be a situation where the launch license is like 99% done on somebody's desk, and they're like, yeah, like 3 days before launch,
like
I will do there's like this one check, and like one person has to still stamp, and it's not urgent right now. Right now, this program is not stopped by regulations. This is it's not a hindrance right now.
That also ties into we have our Discord members server. We have a lot of discussions always, and one of the things that someone was pointing out, like, well, the FAA will obviously say the launch window and things like that. One of the things that kind of remind me of is that by the time we actually get some kind of confirmation of when the launch is going to happen, we're going to get tons of hints from road closures. One of the first things that comes to mind. We're gonna get evacuations. We're gonna get the restrictions for airplanes, for aviators and things like that. We're gonna get hazard notices for the ocean, not just for the Gulf of Mexico, but also in the Pacific Ocean. There's gonna be like this big hazard zone that there's gonna be announced, like, hey, this is where Starship is gonna be re-entering. That happens as well for Falcon 9. We get like hazard notices for things that are related with Falcon 9 that are like on the other side of the world, because the second stage is gonna be deorbiting, right? And so that's something that we're gonna see for Starship as well. That we're gonna see hazard zones in the Pacific Ocean for that. We're gonna see many things, many hints of when things are actually tracking for an actual launch. But I do think we're gonna be waiting for a bit on the actual launch. We've seen in previous hops that we have a road closure for this day. That's when they're gonna be flying. We have TFRs and things like that, and then the day came and no flight at all, like not even an evacuation, because they're still working on technical things and things like that. Yep.
All right. I'm going to keep questions coming here as the booster has now entered the launch sites, moving towards the launch mount. We'll stay alive for a little bit as they continue to finish up the rollout here. We got a couple questions to answer anyway. Dave Wolf did gift 5 Red Team memberships, so thank you, Dave, for that support. And Space Shuttle Discovery says, bring back the Altair lander and Ares 1, 4, and 5, and then design Ares 2 and 3. You won't hear any arguments from me. No, I'm kidding. Good. Thanks for the support there.
The host of this session might be a bit biased on that question, I would say. No.
I would not be.
To be fair, Ares 5 is cool. I agree with that Ares 5 looks.
It's just SLS. It's just cargo SLS. That's all it is.
Yeah, but it had. I know it changed the engines, but at some point it had very cool engines.
That's true. Oh yeah, you and your Delta 4 fandom.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like the handshake meme. Like Thomas, Adrian agreeing that RS-68 rockets are cool.
Let's see. Adam has a question. Oh, here's another prediction.
I don't like either.
Which booster will be the first to fly twice?
Oh my god. I don't know. I think it will be 30s.
Booster
I'm gonna say
30s?
I mean, we see them skipping a lot, and look at Falcon 9 and how long it took. And we still need to catch
first
this.
One, yeah, now that you say that, the first Falcon 9 to fly twice was B-1021. Was in the 20s as well.
Yeah, first one to land was B-1019, right?
Yeah, the first to land was B-1019, yeah.
But they didn't skip like every second Falcon 9 and made a test tank out of it, so
yeah, hold on a second. I'm gonna pull up the old spreadsheet here.
Well, they had B-1027, which was a Falcon Heavy Center Core structural test article.
Sure.
So they actually had numbered Falcon 9 boosters that were tanks, like, for testing.
That's true.
So we'll see. There's also a few numbers out there that are like a little bit, especially on the V1.1 era, are a little bit up in the air. Not too sure.
I think we all agree it will not be soonish. Like, even if they catch one, I wouldn't expect the reflight of the first catch booster.
No. No, I think, I mean, just like they didn't reuse any Starship vehicles, like, I would say, I'd put it in the 20s. Well, oh, now I want to say the 10s.
Another oh god, which one will be reused first, a Starship or a booster?
Ooh.
I think booster.
It's gotta be a booster.
I think booster, yeah.
It's gotta be
a Starship is too complicated.
Yeah.
And like, they have to make it through re-entry first, which is already a very complicated thing. And then they need to land it on a tower, because we'll see if it actually gets landing legs at some point back. But currently, it seems like they're going to be landing it on the chopsticks as well, just like booster. So yeah, I'm thinking more the booster.
Yeah, that booster gets reused first, but so back to the question of which booster would be the first to fly twice. I'll say booster 20.
Okay.
I'll split the middle between the 10s and the 20s.
You know,
this shows that there's really not a good educated guess here. It's
no,
just
it's
like
not. We're completely. This is a random guess. Do not quote me on that one.
yeah.
I love
It
how
would be
we are
funny
all three of us are kind of, I would say, watching this closely, and we're all like, nope, no idea.
Yeah,
Now
not
that
close.
you say that, Thomas, booster 20 is going to be a test tank.
No.
Just saying.
Well, if it does multiple tanking tests, does that count as reuse then?
No.
By that definition, booster 1 was the first.
True. All right. We got one more question here. Exalarian? I don't know if I got that right. Says, will SpaceX add cladding to the entire tower height before the orbital flight test, or ever? I think probably not before the first flight. Like, it's not that high priority, but for the long-term, like, maintenance of the tower, it makes a lot more sense to add the cladding. So it'll get done eventually, just like they did the 39A. They were launching from 39A before they finished cladding the 39A tower. So I think they will, just not. They don't need it before the first flight, though. I don't think.
You could even argue that they don't want to fully clad it before the first orbital flight.
Sure.
Because
they don't yet fully know what that orbital flight might do to this tower.
Right.
So
Hey.
you might want to leave it open before having to open it again and repair everything.
Artemis 1 vibes.
Yeah, true.
Roasting the ML1.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, we talked about this so much before, but seeing these low engine static fire tests already, you see how much force that is. And this will be insane. Like, seeing like basically almost two SLSs of thrust just firing there and just probably obliterating a lot of stuff in the near proximity. Yeah. I don't think SpaceX has like a full picture yet what might happen. I think they're also like, okay, let's see what the orbital launch does.
Right. Someone in chat wants to know if we think we'll put the first caught booster outside of Hawthorne right next to the Falcon 9.
That's
I
gonna
just
be...
want to see how
I don't
you
think
get
it would
that into there.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
How would you get it to California?
Yeah, it's like
Same
like
way
even-
that you get them to Florida, I guess.
A
yeah,
barge?
but then have you
A barge.
Bar-
Yeah.
barge through the Panama Canal and then like
and then
driving
like
the-
think like Shuttle Endeavour like through the streets of LA to get it to Hawthorne.
Hey, it's
Oh
just
my God.
once, okay? So it's not gonna be a big deal, especially for Hawthorne, because they're gonna get a lot of people taking pictures and everything if that happens. So they're gonna get a lot of money. They're probably not gonna be complaining.
Here's the thing though, they would probably have to transport it vertically, and no way that people would be allowed near that, because if it tips over, it would smash a lot of things. So you don't want people in these things. So
People are saying just fly it, but I don't see any chopsticks or any catch.
Yeah, well, yeah. So how do you
at
catch
Hawthorne.
it?
Just saying.
once
You
they
bolt
build a
legs to
Mechazilla,
And you land it on, of course, I Still Love You while it's sitting in the port of Los Angeles.
I want to see
Where's
the
the port
FAA
one?
permit. Like the paperwork gets submitted to the FAA, and they were like, "You planning to land where exactly?" Oh, in the middle of Los Angeles. Yeah, no problem at all.
There's no risk there.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah.
Phantom Rocket points out that Stage 0 will get reused first, obviously.
Is it though?
Will it though? If the launch is successful but toast the orbital launch mount, does that really count?
I still have this image in my head. Like, I will never. The first orbital launch, Starship lifts off. You see, like, onboard cameras looking down. And below Starship, you just see a gulf of flames while the complete orbital launch site is toasted. Like, there is this image in my head of, like, everything being toasted, and Starship's like, yep, see you.
Look at that. You can see Booster 9 in the foreground and Booster 7 moving behind. It's like two different kind of breeds of the same thing. It's
Right.
I think you can also see that Booster 9 is a bit newer, because you can see how it has less, like...
shinier.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Less
shinier.
font and everything on it. And that's ship 20.
So here's the deal. So there's the booster is arriving at the orbital launch mount. The chopsticks have definitely moved and are in a position where they could be preparing for a lift. We don't really have a good, like, where there's no strong indicator as to when the lift will happen. The rules are not super clear whether they need to close the road for a lift, and things like that. So we're not gonna have a great idea. So unless we get an indicator in the next couple minutes, I think we will opt to probably end our live coverage here. There is a road closure that starts at 2 a.m., which we're not staying live till 2 a.m. So unless we get an indicator that there's some other window for a lift here, I think this is going to be the last milestone we cover here for our live coverage today. This started as a NASASpaceflight live episode, hence the face cams, where we were recapping 2022, some of the things that our team predicted for last year, and then we made some predictions for this coming year. If you missed that, definitely go to the first hour and a half of this live stream was that. And also, if you're a YouTube member, I think we're going to get those predictions sent over to the Discord channel, and we can even ask y'all for your own predictions. But then we got gifted with a Booster 7 rollout. So Booster 7 now at the orbital launch mount, and we're going to stay tuned for lift operations. Of course, there are 24/7 live camera feeds over on Starbase Live, which I'm assuming where we're going to throw all of you to now that we wrap up here. But really quick, let's go around the horn and thank the folks who were on here for an extended episode of NASASpaceflight. First and foremost, Alex, thank you for hopping on today and providing your expertise and predictions.
Always a pleasure. At least here in this setup right now, we cannot have like the merge coming here and blocking my face.
It'll block Falcon 9 in the corner, no worries.
Yeah. And definitely stay tuned for this week because we have a lot of launches. And Falcon Heavy.
Falcon Heavy coming up. There's a Falcon 9 from the Cape tomorrow. There's also a Starlink launch from Vandenberg tomorrow. I don't believe we're expecting to have media access for that launch, so I'm not sure we'll have an NSF broadcast, but we're fully expecting one for the OneWeb launch. And then Falcon Heavy coming up as well. So thanks for the merch plug there, Alex. Also, Adrian Beil was on comms with us today. Adrian, thank you so much for staying on late as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and also thanks for hosting, Thomas. It was a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure as well. Thank you everyone who sent support our way, whether it's super chats, memberships, whether you bought merch that covered Alex's face, and a huge thank you to the launch directors and flight engineers. Of course, you get your name on the screen at the end of the show for going above and beyond with your support, so we greatly appreciate that as well. But that does it for your commentators. We also had Michael Baylor in the background pushing buttons, pulling levers, also pulling together those slides, showing us all of our predictions and helping out with that as well. So Michael, thanks as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Let's head over to Starbase Live for continuing coverage of Booster 7 operations, potentially getting reinstalled on the orbital launch mount later tonight. But until then, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.